The profession of a mentor is in no way connected to the war. Therefore, he decided to live calmly and quietly. But that was only until one day. The boy recalled his peaceful life while swinging a homemade weapon in front of a huge orc who was already preparing to attack and shouting in anger. I seem to remember how two figures, a man and a woman, asked you for forgiveness for not being able to take him with them on the journey. The couple left, leaving behind only a long shadow. They explained that working with old things would no longer help them in future battles. The man said goodbye to Ryu and asked him to stay to continue taking care of the animals. The boy simply reaches out his hand to them and asks why they acted that way. He helplessly asks them to stop and wait for him because he could also fight alongside them. Suddenly the boy wakes up in his bed with an outstretched arm. The sun shines brightly into the room, and its rays no longer let the boy sleep. It turned out that all these memories were just a dream. Ryu's house is located among mountains and hills. On his farm there are many different animals that he takes good care of. The boy went outside to feed the animals. Suddenly, the cow he had just treated with fresh grass began rubbing against him. The boy liked it very much and started stroking the animals under the chin. And then suddenly, a girl called Ryu. The girl with the cat in her arms slowly approaches the boy. She sincerely thanks him because it was thanks to Ryu that her cat finally recovered. When the girl approached, the boy petted the animals on the head. He is happy that the girl's pet has finally recovered. The girl notes that although the boy became a mentor, he still knows how to treat animals. The boy smiles cheerfully in response, though he is actually a bit confused because he didn't really want to be a mentor. As it turned out, the profession is chosen by the church. With the profession of a mentor, it is much easier for a person to find common ground with animals. But two of his childhood friends received the professions of a young hero and a wizard. The young heroine can become a true hero, so the girl immediately began to study the way of knights and started training even more. A mage is a support profession, and he studied magic at the church. When we all grew up, my two friends and I set out on a journey. Ryu remembers this, and thinks that compared to his friends, he is moving forward very slowly. Suddenly, he is distracted again by a girl holding a cat in her arms. She got upset because the boy was lost in thought and did not listen to her at all. He came to his senses and apologized to the girl. Then he asks the guest what they were talking about and where they left off. The girl reminds that there are rumors in the city. His friend is expected to return soon. The boy yawns cutely. He is a little tired and thinks it is time for him to rest. He stands among the trees and stretches, raising his arms up. The wind gently blows his obedient hair. Ryu could not imagine that after such a dream, friends could return just like that. Ryu realized that they had always been together before, but now he was left alone. Therefore, thanks to his profession, Ryu made friends with many dogs and cats in the new city. He often played with them and took care of them. But the boy rested his hand on his head and dreams that he could conquer Fenrir. After all, then he could follow his friends and be beside them. Such a dream is simply unattainable, and it is impossible to achieve. Suddenly, the boy is distracted by an angry growl from the bushes behind. He wonders what it could have been. Ryu is sure that there should be no one in the forest. He carefully parts the bushes with his hands and asks if anyone is there. The boy widens his eyes in surprise. He immediately notices the smooth fur of some animal. In the bushes, there really is a wolf sitting and staring intently right at the boy. Ryu could not take his eyes off this beautiful wolf. He was amazed at how incredible it was. Ryu still could not believe his eyes until he suddenly noticed that the wolf's hind leg was caught in a trap. Sharp iron spikes painfully pierced the hind paw. Ryu immediately ran up to the wolf and asked him to wait because he could help now. The wolf was not happy with such support at all and began to growl threateningly at the boy. As soon as Ryu reached out his hand to him, the wolf immediately bit it hard. Ryu carefully tried to pull his hand out of the animal's grip and asked it to calm down, holding the angry wolf by the scruff while it struggled and resisted. Ryu still managed to remove the trap from its hind leg. The wolf watches the boy with interest. Ryu asks to wait a little because he has a potion with him. The wolf waits patiently and watches closely as the boy searches for something in his backpack. The boy is pouring potion on the animal's hind leg and says that now everything will be fine with it, and it will be able to run easily and confidently. The boy stood up and was about to leave because it was already time to return to work. Ryu had just turned around, and the animals were already gone without a trace. The boy smiled and went home. The night was dark. There was not a single lantern or any other light that could dispel this darkness. Everything was illuminated only by the stars and the moon, which took light from the sun. Ryu could not fall asleep. He lay on the bed and wondered if that wolf was able to find the way home to its pack. Ryu was glad that he was near that beast then and was able to help it. The boy cutely yawns and covers his mouth with his hand. He understands that it is already late and time to go to bed to get a good sleep. Suddenly, a wolf enters the room. He appears next to the boy's head, opens his mouth wide, and greets him friendly. The beast says that tonight is a very beautiful night. Ryu turns in horror and looks at the animal. He repeats his last words. The boy realizes that this animal is the same wolf he saved during the day, and as it dawns on Ryu what is happening, he notices the wolf can talk. The boy is sitting on the bed and thinking that it might not be a wolf, but some kind of monster, because it not only understands human language but can also speak. Meanwhile, while the boy was trying to understand what was happening, the monster was walking around the room and said that he had questions for the boy. The boy replied that he would listen and answer if he could. The wolf is amazed and tells the boy that he is very honest. Ryu looks away and agrees with this, because if something goes wrong, he will be instantly overcome by the sharp jaws of the beast. The animal tilts its head to the side. At that moment, the wolf asks why Ryu still decided to help the animal and even spend his potion on it. The man is confused and thinks about how to respond to the wolf. After all, he cannot say that he just wanted to help. No one will believe such nonsense. And if he lies, everything can easily be revealed. Suddenly, the she-wolf opened her mouth and asked the boy to answer immediately, because she was not patient enough to wait for Ryu to think everything over and gather his thoughts together. The boy mustered up courage and awkwardly admitted that he helped the she-wolf because he finds her very beautiful. The she-wolf was surprised by such words because she did not expect to hear such an answer at all. The boy explained that he would not want such a beautiful she-wolf to simply disappear. The she-wolf begins to laugh loudly. Now she understood why the boy acted that way. In fact, he wanted the she-wolf to live long, so he helped her get out of the trap. She covers her nose with her paw and says that the boy is still very interesting to her. She adds that she was just playing a little with these things, and he decided to help her. The boy exhales and looks away. He understands that right now she does not need any help at all. But the she-wolf returns to Ryu and is now genuinely interested in him. She admits that she likes him and asks what his name is. The boy hesitates a little, but the she-wolf says there is no need to be afraid of her. Then he says his name. The she-wolf repeats the unusual name of the boy. She notices that his name is truly rare. Then she declares that from now on he belongs to her, and all the boy's objections do not interest her. The boy slightly misunderstood the she-wolf's hint and thought that he probably heard something wrong. But suddenly the she-wolf assured him that he heard everything correctly. She said that from now on, Ryu would be her pet. The boy was surprised by this statement and asked again if she was really talking about him. Suddenly the she-wolf grew so sharply that her head broke through the ceiling. Wooden fragments scattered around the room. She called Rhea to go with her. The she-wolf took the boy in her jaws. The boy thinks that the wolf not only talks but can also become bigger. He is sure that it is Fenrir. Ryu asks her about it, and she is surprised that he only noticed it now. The boy asked to wait a little so that she would give him at least one bag to take with him. After some time, they found themselves in the forest. The Fenrir girl said they had arrived and threw the boy to the ground. Ryu recalls those moments when they raced through the forest on all fours, or rather, on paws. For him, it was a real horror, as he had to ride in the beast's jaws the whole way. The boy lifts his head and sees that the tree canopies completely cover the sky. Bright sunlight illuminates his eyes, which see such an amazing place for the first time. The boy found himself in a small pit near the hill, on which stood one of the Fenrirs. The same creatures stood around the hill, watching the boy closely. The one who stood on the hill watched carefully as Fenrir and Ryu approached. The boy looked at them in surprise. A pack of Fenrir appeared before him. There were about 20 or 30 Fenrirs in the pack. The one standing in the middle was much bigger than the others. The man assumed that this was probably the leader of the pack. Ryu is trembling with fear. He is very scared. He is not sure if he will be able to get out of this forest alive. Suddenly Fenrir, whom everyone considers the leader, turns to his daughter and asks whom she has brought into their home. Ryu understands that the she-wolf who brought him here is the daughter of the pack leader. She says that she liked him, so she decided to bring him. The father begins to scold and tells his daughter that this is not a reason to drag a person into their pack and forest. The leader rudely addresses the main character and asks how he knows her daughter. The boy says that he works on a ranch. The leader repeats his question again. Then Ryu begins to explain that the leader's daughter got trapped and he just saved her. The leader of Fenrir began to explain that their pack could easily destroy any trap, and Ryu added that he only later found out his daughter was just playing with those traps. The leader is noticeably upset that she had to take on the assignment again. The daughter turns to her father and says that the person she brought works as a mentor. At least that's what she claims. Maybe Ryu can help their grandfather. The wolf again turns to the boy and asks if it is true. The pack leader looks away and says that their grandfather lived a long life, and it is unlikely that anyone can help him solve this problem. At this moment, the daughter quietly whispers to Ryu that her grandfather's condition has worsened due to a lack of magical power. She believes that it is partly her fault. The boy does not fully understand, but he feels that someone from their close ones is not planning to run away at all, and he was brought here only because he might be of some use. Understanding this, the boy returns to the leader. Ryu says that he should not scold his child so much. Ryo asks to be allowed to meet with his grandfather. Since there is almost no time left, Fenrir has nothing to lose anymore. Suddenly, the leader sharply interrupts the boy and contemptuously orders him to be silent. The boy turns to the leader and says that he was brought here to help his own. Rias continues the conversation and says that if the problem is age, he will not be able to help. But if the matter is something else, he will most likely be able to find a solution. At that moment, the chief's daughter looked at the boy in surprise. The leader looks down on the boy and agrees to his request. He allows him to enter the elder, although he says it is still a wasted precious time and effort. They approach the place where the tree branches near the roots. Between the roots stands a sofa on which a very old representative of the Fenrir family is resting. His granddaughter greets her grandfather, addressing him with respect as an elder. Old Fenrir barely opens his heavy eyelids and quietly asks why the man is here. The girl was about to explain everything, but the boy interrupted her again with the same hand gesture. Ryu extends his hand to the elder. That man says he is very glad to meet you. But Ryu explains that he was brought here by the elder's granddaughter. The boy works as a mentor. He says he came here to help cure Fenrir's illness. The elder Fenrir looks at the boy with distrust and asks again what he does for a living. He doubts that he can help him, but Ryu assures that it is entirely possible. However, he has no intention of doing it for free after such a statement. All the local Fenrirs were very surprised. They almost dropped their jaws in shock and outrage. From the side, an indignant barking was immediately heard. An ordinary person cannot behave like that with their leader. Some even decided that this guy was trying to deceive Fenrir. At that moment, the old man approached the boy and asked if he could really help him. The boy agreed and looked at him attentively, not even looking away. Fenrir agreed and told the boy that he believed in him. Ryu placed his hand on his chest and promised that they would quickly finish this matter. But in return, Reap will ask Henry for one favor. He wants to become even stronger. The elder is interested in why the boy needs such strength. Reap replies that he is the same as his granddaughter. The boy explains that the girl relied on him because she could not cure her grandfather herself. She even found it hard to imagine how to do it, so she decided to turn to the man. This is why this guy no longer wants to upset his family. At that moment, he again remembers two friends who followed him and his hand that he then extended to them. The Fenrir girl was surprised by the boy's words. The elder said he accepted the boy's conditions and asked who he was and what he wanted from him. The guy explained that everything is very simple and began to take off the glove. Your forearm is closer to Fenrir. He asked you to bite him and drink his blood. The leader said that it was complete nonsense. He did not believe at all that the blood of an ordinary person could change anything. Despite all the complaints from the side, the elder still agreed. He stood up, took the boy's hand, and bit it. A great cloud of dust and bright light rose around them, so the others from Fenrir had to grab the ground to avoid being blown away. The elder's face changed, and the boy squeezed his hand with all his might. The elder lets go of the boy. Ryu holds her in front of him. He did not think it would be so painful. The girl became interested in what the boy did. She still doesn't know where the mentor gets so much magical power from, and she finds it very interesting. The boy understands what the girl is thinking about. She believes that Ryu has more magical power than the hero. There are reasons for this. Ryu himself explains it by the fact that he often wraps his hand with a bandage. Simply put, Ryu has too much magical power in his body. If this energy is not released, he might just explode. The girl clarifies to the boy that if he is too strong and it doesn't come off, everything could end quite badly. Ryu says that strength usually comes from training, but he was born already very strong. Moreover, his strength only grows with age. You could say he is a true treasure. The girl is distracted by the elder and returns to her grandfather. The grandfather is full of strength. Old Fenrir happily wags his tail. He is hard to recognize. Others notice that he is already better. The granddaughter gently approaches her grandfather and touches his head. The grandfather remembers the agreement with the boy and asks him to start training with his pack before he gains strength. The boy asks in surprise if it is really possible to train in the Fenrir forest. Suddenly, an angry growl sounds behind. You cannot do this because a human cannot become part of the pack. The elder sincerely thanks the boy for his help. But outside, the dissatisfied shouts of other Fenrir can still be heard. They say this man is very weak, cannot be trusted, and is generally inexperienced. Someone from outside suggested getting rid of the boy. The elder sternly ordered all the Fenrirs to be silent. He angrily asked if his relatives really wanted to deal with the one who saved his life. Suddenly everyone bowed their heads, pressed their ears to their necks, and began to whimper plaintively. Ryu felt a terrible pressure. He could not understand why he was so scared, since this pressure was not even on him. Ryu leans toward the girl and asks who her grandfather really is. She answers, "He is the first Fenrir, that is, the ancestor of all Fenrirs." The elder asks what the boy wants to do first. He replies that he wants to learn to better control magical energy above all. The elder understands that strength is needed for this. In this forest, the boy will have to change completely. He will become stronger and learn to control his abilities. The boy understands the leader's words to mean that he needs to deal with his inner self. But he doubts whether he will be able to be with his friends again. But the boy gathers courage and says that he trusts the elder. The elder and the girl Fenrir close their eyes and nod approvingly in response. Suddenly he puts something in his mouth, approaches, and gives it to the boy. A large fang is visible on the boy's hand. The elder proudly says that this is his tusk. And the boy cannot believe his eyes because the treasure he is holding in his hands is the real tusk of Elder Fenrir. The elder explains that this trophy will help the boy control magical power. Suddenly, a girl from the Fenrir clan runs up to Ryu and says she will take care of him during training. Ryu confidently clenches his fang in his hands. He asks to wait for his friends because he will definitely catch up with them. For this desire, he strives to become stronger. Ryu dodges the quick attack. He trains hard together with the evil orcs in the Fenrir forest. The angry orc wildly lunges at Ryu, droplets of saliva flying from his wide-open mouth. Ryu calmly looks at the enemy. He is determined, as he has been training for about a month. Ryu enjoys it when the goblin jumps on the boy and waves his club. The orcs attack slowly, so they are easy to avoid. Ryu knows this, so he easily dodges the monster's heavy strike. Suddenly, Ryu sharply cuts off the orc's hand. The monster explodes with an unbearable, piercing scream. Then the blow falls on the legs. Ryu knows, if the monster loses balance, it can be easily beheaded. The guy wipes sweat from his forehead. He did a good job and is proud of the result. He turns back and asks how Fenrir's girl is doing. The creature was sitting on a pile of orcs and sweetly yawning. It turned out that it was just waiting for Ryu to finish with the monster. She noticed that he had been messing with some orc for a very long time. The boy wonders how Fenrir managed to deal with such a number of orcs. Fenrir is truly incredible. Fenrir and Ryu decided to make a short stop among the trees. They lit a small fire on which they could roast juicy and tasty meat. Ryu understands that orcs are already some of the weakest monsters, but now he still manages to deal with them. Fenrir encourages the boy and says that he has probably become stronger. Actually, on the first day, the guy did nothing but run away. Ryu himself admits this. Even after a month of training, he barely manages to handle such a monster. To improve his endurance, Ryu constantly ran away from the pack of Fenrirs, who kept catching up to him again and again. That's how he learned to survive in the forest. The Fenrir girl was always nearby, watching his training. To develop immunity, he eats poisonous berries again. After all, to become stronger, you need to be able to adapt to any conditions. Ryu looks at the tusk that the elder gave him. He understands that he achieved such results precisely because of this gift, as the tusk is so large that it can be used as a knife. The girl from the Fenrir family proudly lifted her chin and confirmed the boy's words. She assured that her grandfather was simply incredible. Ryu believes that it is good that the elder's granddaughter personally takes care of him, but the Fenrir girl lowers her head and presses her ears back. She is upset because she still does not have her own name. For monsters, a name is a part of their soul. That is why giving a monster a name requires a lot of magical power. However, when the elder wanted to give a name to his granddaughter, he completely ran out of mana. The boy patted Fenrir on the head and asked her not to be upset. Ryu said with a joyful smile that the elder would definitely give a name to his granddaughter. It just takes a little patience. The boy says he cannot look at her sad face. The girl from Fenrir looked at Ryu with hope in her eyes. Suddenly, one of the Fenrirs jumped out of the bushes and called his mistress, the granddaughter of the elder. The girl asked what had happened, and the newcomer replied that he was bringing her a message from the chief. Suddenly Fenrir turned to Ryu and wrinkled his nose with disgust. The elder has news about the boy's training, so he needs to come quickly to listen to the leader. Ryu notices that the whole pack treats him very coldly. The elder stands by the tree and waits for the boy. Ryu called the old Fenrir and greeted him. The leader says that the boy came quickly. The guy says that he was clearly told to hurry up to listen carefully to the elder, and he smiled and asked not to pay attention to his colleagues. The elder says that many of Fenrir consider retraining pointless. The boy did not fully understand what Fenrir meant and asked about it again. The elder seriously says that he has prepared a trial for the boy. Ryu must pass this test and prove his strength to become part of Fenrir's pack. At first, the boy was frightened by the elder's forcefulness, but in a moment he gathered his thoughts, looked confidently, and asked what he needed to do to become a member of the pack. The elder speaks very seriously. Fenrir says that Ryu must defeat the demonic rooster himself. This is a trial for him. The demonic rooster is a Class B monster that even a whole team of adventurers can barely defeat. Going after it alone is true madness. Suddenly, the elder's granddaughter appears behind the boy and asks her grandfather if she can help you with the task. The elder explains that the essence of the trial is for Ryu to defeat this monster on his own, so no one can help him. The elder noticed that Ryu had not yet fully realized the power of Fenrir's fang. The boy looked at his trophy and was surprised. Fenrir explains that the fangs have the power to destroy everything in their path, even magic. Ryu has the fang of Fenrir's elder himself, and he will help the boy if he wants. The old man smiles and says that with such a thing, the demonic rooster does not threaten the boy. Ryusei scratches the back of his head and does not quite understand what Fenrir is talking about. The elder explains that there is nothing terrible about the fact that the boy does not understand anything yet. His trial will begin at sunset, and until then he needs to rest well. The sun sets behind the mountain. The bright rays on the treetops become fewer and fewer. Suddenly, the monster's paw sharply drops to the ground. The elder's granddaughter, together with Ryu, cautiously peeks out from behind the bush and carefully watches the monster. The demonic rooster is simply huge. Most of its body resembles a regular rooster, but instead of a tail, it has a large snake. This monster hunts an innocent animal. Suddenly, the demonic rooster blinded everything around with a bright light from its eyes. The animal that tried to escape from the monster squealed for the last time, when suddenly its body, starting from the hind legs, completely petrified. The demonic rooster mercilessly trampled the animal sculpture, and in a moment only a pile of stones and dust remained. Ryu, watching this, realizes that the situation is now completely against them. This monster can turn a person to stone with one glance. Its gaze and even its rooster-like tail are poisonous. But the monster has weaknesses. It only sees a narrow space in front of it and cannot fly. The elder's granddaughter asks the boy if he is okay. Ryu refuses her help and says that he still has no other choice. The boy boldly stepped over the bushes and walked towards the enemy. Fenrir's granddaughter wished him luck and asked him to be more careful. The boy hid behind a tree so the monster wouldn't see him and took the elder Fenrir's fang in his hands. Ryu understands that going straight at the demon rooster is unwise, so first he needs to deal with the snake that is on his tail. The boy suddenly jumped forward and, while the snake was not looking at him, prepared to strike. As soon as the snake saw the boy, he instantly dealt with it in one strike. Ryu is incredibly happy because he managed to defeat part of the monster. Without hesitation, Ryu ran as fast as he could to the monster's paws. They needed to be attacked to quickly immobilize the creature. Suddenly, the demonic rooster screamed loudly and pushed Ryu away with its paw. The boy immediately realized that everything would not be so simple. The rooster turns its head from side to side. It seems he has lost Ryu from sight. The man begins to suspect that he has ended up in the monster's blind spot. The boy suddenly jumps out of the bushes and is already about to attack. But suddenly the rooster unexpectedly slips away from him. Ryu did not immediately understand what had happened until he looked up. It turned out that this demonic rooster could fly. It soared high into the sky and spread its huge wings wide. He definitely did not expect such a turn here, because he was sure that this demonic rooster could not fly. The boy realizes that he is now completely at the mercy of this monster. The rooster's wings spread wider and wider. The boy waits for the rooster to come down, but Ryu doesn't even manage to finish his thought. Suddenly, a demonic rooster closes its wings, and a powerful wind rises with such force that the boy, along with pieces of wood, is thrown backward. The elder's granddaughter anxiously asks the boy if he is all right. Ryu carefully gets up and replies that he is fine. As it turned out, this wind was very dangerous, as it could cut trees into perfectly even pieces. Ryu begins to suspect that the demonic rooster used magic. Ryu is thinking about what to do in such a difficult situation. It seems the rooster has no intention of coming down at all. The boy realizes, if he had magic that works from a distance, everything would be easier. But Ryu looks at the fang with surprise, and wonders what could be in it that might help to win. Suddenly, the boy remembers magic. Ryo recalls what the elder said. Fenrir's fangs can destroy everything in their path, even magic. And the boy now holds the fang of the elder Fenrir himself. This trophy will definitely come in handy for the boy if he wants. The boy carefully, without missing a single detail, recalls the attack of the demonic rooster from the air. The monster spreads its wings again, preparing for a new attack. Ryu quickly jumps up and stands right in front of it, deftly dodging the attacks. He understands that if he does nothing, he will barely make ends meet. He has no other choice. Ryu decides that he must definitely try something. The boy stubbornly stands his ground and extends Fenrir's fang forward. Light appears around him. The elder's granddaughter notices that the boy has gained more mana. Ryu focuses on her magic. She summons magical power to pass through the claw and commands the mana to gather at its tip. At that moment, the demonic rooster attacks swiftly, allowing no pause for rest. And now so much mana has accumulated that it is time to release it. Ryu swung his fang, and a powerful wave burst from it, very similar to the attacks the monster made. This strike hit the demonic rooster, which was still in the air. The monster was defeated, and parts of its body fell to the ground with a crash. The boy could not believe in his success. He looked at the defeated monster. The elder's granddaughter ran out of the bushes and congratulated the boy on his victory. She was sincerely happy that he managed to pass the trial. Ryu wanted to support Fenrir's words, but suddenly fell to the ground. Fenrir immediately became worried that something had happened to the boy. In fact, the boy simply no longer had the strength even to stand on his feet. Ryu apologizes for such behavior towards the Fenrirs, and asks to be allowed to rest a little. The elder's granddaughter is surprised that Ro decided to rest here, but she did not object and agreed. The boy can no longer utter a word. He thinks that now he can finally rest peacefully, and then talk to the elder. Suddenly he hears a woman's hand touching his head. Eyelids are already sticking together, but through them the silhouette of a girl is still slightly visible. Ryu immediately wondered who it could be, since besides him no one else was here. Thoughts no longer fit in his head, and his eyelids were getting heavier and heavier. The boy really wants to sleep, and in a moment he falls asleep. The girl who sat next to you allowed her to rest. Meanwhile, the elder sat nearby and watched the scene. He praised the boy because now he can safely become part of their pack. After the victory over the demon rooster, many Fenrirs began spending more time with the boy, and the younger children often asked Ryu to play with them. The adults, however, invited them to hunt and brought various food. Ryu stretches out his hands forward and asks Fenrir to wait a little. Behind him appears the elder's granddaughter. She notices that now Ryu really likes Fenrirs. The boy says that now the pack members do not give him any peace at all. The elder's granddaughter does not consider this bad, as the boy has passed the trial and thereby earned respect in the pack. The boy understands that the events are unfolding very successfully. However, not all members of the pack like the newcomer. The pack leader hid behind a tree and angrily watched you. Suddenly, the pack leader is calmed by his wife. She places a heavy paw on Fenrir's head and reproaches her husband for setting a bad example for the children. Reo looks at this picture. He is pleased that Mother Wolf is nearby, and he tells the elder's granddaughter that her mother is quite strict. The girl responds that her mother holds a high position in the pack. As it turned out, Mom holds such a high position because she is the daughter of the elder Fenrir. Ryu looks at the torn sleeve and realizes that his clothes are completely worn out. It's time to go to the city and buy himself something new. The girl from Fenrir wonders why Ryu does not use monster skins instead of regular clothes. But Ryu explains that he does not have enough skills to sew such things himself. You need money for new clothes, so you will have to go to the city anyway. Then the elder's granddaughter suggested asking her grandfather about it. Reo agrees and goes to the elder. But suddenly the leader, the father of the elder's granddaughter, appears on the way. He strictly orders Ryu not to go to the city. The leader suspects that this boy wants to tell someone about their shelter. He asks the elder not to even think about letting him go anywhere. The mother notices this and is upset that her husband has returned to his old habits again. Ryu understands that the leader is right. If someone finds out where the pack is, everyone will be in serious danger. You ask the elder if there is another way to get to the city. The granddaughter says that the boy needs someone to escort him. The elder agrees with the granddaughter and assures that it will be safer that way. Suddenly, Grandma Fenrir turns to her husband and asks if there is a suitable candidate in their pack. The girl is very happy to see her grandmother. The elder's wife turns to him and asks if he really trusts this man so little. The elder agrees with Grandma Fenrir's opinion. He turns to Ryu and suggests introducing him to the dwarf. After all, dwarves are very skilled and incredibly strong. If given the necessary materials, they can sew everything. The elder has a familiar dwarf in the kingdom. If Ryu approaches him and says he came from Elder Fenrir, the dwarf will definitely help. Ryu smiles and thanks the elder. The leader of Fenrir objected to the elder, saying that on the way to the city of Ryu he would meet many people. The elder smiled and replied that then he would send his daughter along with Ryu. Everyone was clearly surprised by such an unexpected idea. The old man understands that it is time to show his granddaughter the big world. Moreover, he trusts you. The boy is not at all against you being her companion. The Fenrir girl blushed and turned away from Ryu. Her father, the chief, forbade his daughter from going out into the world, especially with Ryu. When he said this, his wife lightly slapped him on the chin. Mom asks what the problem is, since Ryu treats her daughter well. Grandma silently watches from the side and says nothing. Ryu paused for a moment, wondering how much Fenrir loves him. The elder looks back once more before leaving. He is going to teach the boy some magic, and the boy will be able to earn money by selling the obtained materials. At first, Ryu was very worried, but now he is happy. He is curious about what awaits them ahead. Grandmother Fenrir asks Ro if he remembered everything and took it with him. Ro confirms, and nearby the mother is still calming her husband, the leader of the Fenrirs. Thanks to the elder, he learned a lot of new things about materials and mastered the magic of the treasury. Now he needs to reach the land of the dwarves. Ryu turns around and asks where his companion is. Fenrir's grandmother asks to wait a little longer, promising that a great surprise awaits him. The elder approaches the boy and thanks him for his patience. Next to the elder stands a slender and beautiful girl with wolf ears. She shyly looks at Ryu, waiting to see how he will react. The boy was impressed and immediately noticed how beautiful the girl was. He wondered where she had come from. The girl covers her mouth with her hand and presses her ears to her head. She asks to share impressions about her once again. Ryu immediately does not understand where the girl knows him from and why her voice is so familiar. Ryu guesses who it is, and the girl holds her grandmother's paw. She is incredibly happy that she succeeded. The grandmother praises her granddaughter because now no one recognizes her among the people. Ryu recalls that after the battle with the demon rooster, he saw a girl. The boy guesses that it was her. The girl explains. In fact, she has been training for a long time. All this happened because she wanted to travel together with Ryu. It used to be hard for the girl to remain as she is, but the advice of her mother and grandmother helped her cope with everything. Suddenly, an old man appears next to the boy and wants to address him with a request. He asks Ryu to give a name to his granddaughter. The boy was very surprised by such a request. Ryu asks the elder if he wants the boy to sign a contract with his granddaughter. The elder agrees, as he believes the boy can handle it. It turns out the guy has to give the girl a name and make a dating contract with her. This contract has its advantages. For example, they will be able to communicate through thoughts. In general, this is quite a beneficial offer for the guy. Grandmother Fenrir calms Ryu and says that he has nothing to worry about. Her granddaughter wants this too. Grandmother continues and says that her granddaughter owes this boy. Therefore, she asks him to name the name. Grandmother explains that she and her granddaughter have been together for a long time and she can trust this boy. Moreover, my granddaughter is also fine with this. At that moment, the Fenrir girl calmly bowed her head and waited for the boy's response. The boy agrees to sign the contract with Fenrir. The grandmother is happy with this decision and thanks the boy for his consent. Ryu looks at the girl. She stands right in front of him and also looks him in the eyes. The eagle suggests starting. The girl agrees, and the boy reaches his hand to her forehead. The boy thinks that now he needs to offer a contract, and the girl agrees. After that, he has to give her a new name. Light begins to glow from his hand, highlighting all the features of the girl's face. When the magic reaches its peak between two people, the boy says the name Lear. He opens his eyes and says that it is all over. The girl turns away and repeats her new name. Ryu was worried because he thought she would not like the name Lear. He believed that this name suited her very well. The girl smiles and closes her eyes contentedly. She says that she likes her name and thanks the boy. He sighs with relief. A smile appears on his face. Grandpa Fenrir approaches from the side. The pack elder asks if everything went well. The boy nods. Suddenly, Lear grabs Rhea's hand and asks to set off on a journey. The girl takes the boy by the hand, leads him, and says goodbye to her grandfather, grandmother, and mother. Somewhere in the distance, her father notices this with special satisfaction because his daughter did not say goodbye to him. The boy and the girl set off on a journey together. Lear saw many different and beautiful landscapes. She was impressed by the mountains, and the shashlik prepared for her was simply incredible in taste. She probably also really enjoyed falling asleep when she snuggled up to the boy on his shoulder by the campfire. The girl turns to the boy and asks about the land of the dwarves. He explains that it is a settlement near the mines. Many craftsmen live there, where you can find great weapons and excellent armor. In addition to all the information about armor and weapons, the guy adds that they will appear soon. One guy turns to Lear and asks, "Don't you think the girl is standing too close to the guy?" She hugged his arm with her palms and pressed against him. Ryu recalls that Lear did not stay close to him in the forest. The girl explains, she could not behave like that among her own people. She says that she has long wanted to flirt with such a guy. Rio thoughtfully looks at the girl, and after a few minutes gently strokes her head and wonders who spoiled her like that. The boy steps onto uncharted land. Before him and Lear rises a huge wall. It impresses with its size. They have reached the place. The girl went ahead and asked to hurry. The boy called her and asked her to wait. He wants the girl to turn into a she-wolf. Lear wants to find out why this boy needed such a plan. Ryu shows her a card and explains that the girl does not have one. The card must be shown to everyone at the entrance. If its owner came in human form, the liar will be immediately recognized, but in the form of a wolf he will be perceived as a usual animal, and the card will not be asked for. The girl quickly transformed into Fenrir. She was not at all against taking on that appearance again. The boy was glad that Lear did not object, and they set off further. The boy stood behind someone and asked if this was really the line to enter the city. The group turns around and confirms Ray's words. It turned out to be a blonde with freckles on his face. He asks Ray if this is his first time here. Rayo agrees and says that he would like to sell materials from monsters here and buy new clothes for himself. The boy replies that this city is perfect for Rayo because there are many skilled craftsmen here. Suddenly the guards called the new acquaintance to go further and turn back. The boy said goodbye, bowing, and introduced himself. His name was Mac. It turned out that Mac was a merchant and he might still meet Ryu. Ryu greets in response and says he is very glad to meet. Now it is the boy's turn. In a small window sits a knight who asks for what purpose Ryu has come to the city. Ryu extends his card and explains that he just wanted to sell materials to buy himself new clothes. The knight asks if he is registered with the local merchants guild. Ryu says he is not registered in the guild because he thought he was selling materials to the adventurers guild. The guard understands everything and, to be safe, asks to see exactly what materials the boy brought. Ryu agrees and lays out his things in front of the guard. Suddenly the man was very surprised and asked the boy to wait a moment in place. In the distance, the boy was discussing the goods with someone else. Then he returns and thanks you for waiting. Suddenly, a man in fancy clothes approaches the boy and introduces himself as a guild employee. The man looks serious and asks Ryu if he can talk to him. Now Ryu is already sitting opposite this man in a stone room with a fireplace. The man asks Ryu if he can buy these skins from him. Ryu was very surprised by this request. The man explained that these materials are of very good quality and are hard to find on the market. The boy did not think that this was truly such a rare and valuable material. He still believes that it is better to show them to the master first. The man, noticing the boy's confusion, asks if he would allow him to buy these materials. Ryu assures that he meant something completely different, as he was simply heading to a certain acquaintance craftsman. The man asks which master the boy is going to, if it is not a secret. Ryu replies that the master he approached is now called Dovar Crown. Upon hearing this name, an admiring expression appears on the faces of the guard and the man. An awkward silence fell in the room. The boy did not understand what had happened to them. He already thought that this was Dovar Crown, some kind of criminal. Ryu asked the man if his master was really that famous. He began to make excuses, saying that a friend had recommended this master to him, and Ryu himself had never seen him even once. The man with regret on his face repeats the boy's words. He explains that Dovar Crown is the king of this country. Rayus's face suddenly changes from calm to surprised. He clearly did not expect to hear that his master has now become king. Here they are walking together with Lear along the road. Suddenly the wolf turns to Ryu and mentally asks what they will do next. Ryu is scared because he completely forgot that now he and Lear can communicate telepathically. The man replies that he plans to meet the king, but it will be very difficult. First, he suggests Lyra sell the materials. Suddenly they continue down the road. The main character wonders where the guild is located, and then they meet one of their friends. As it turned out, this is Mac. He is already waving to them and greeting. Ryu approached Mac and asked if the guy was really waiting for them. The acquaintance confirmed this. He said he had already started to worry because the friends had not returned for a long time. Ryu scratches the back of his head and apologizes to the new acquaintance. He explains that checking the material took longer than he thought. Ryu asks Mac if he knows where the guild is. Mac replies that he knows and adds that he is also interested in Ryu's materials. After that, he shows which way to go. As it turned out, they were very close to each other. They enter the same place. Mac explained that guilds need to constantly report on task completion. Therefore, they decided to do it closer to the entrance. The room was quite spacious, with a large counter where the employees submitted their reports. Mac led the boy to the counter. He explains that everything here is divided into 3 stages. Ryu just wants to sell the materials, so he needs to move on to the next stage. The girl behind the counter warmly greets Ryu. She politely asks him to leave the materials so the man can sell the tincture. The guy agrees and decides that it is better for him to sell materials from weak monsters now. But materials of excellent quality are better left for the king. The guy lays all the skins on the table, and they form a real mountain. Suddenly the girl ran away and asked the boy to wait. And Mac, who was standing behind, asked in surprise where he got so much material from. All the men and women nearby were very surprised by such a sight. After all, this material is very rare. Moreover, it was of good quality, so some even thought that the boy had just shown a real miracle. Ryu began to justify himself, saying it was just the hide of a wild boar. Med objected that it was not so simple. Max says that this huge boar is a Class A monster. He also tells something interesting about wild boars. Apparently, the main character heard this information for the first time because he lived in the forest and knew nothing about it. The girl runs up to the counter again and apologizes for making the boy wait so long. She says the guild is ready to offer 62 gold coins for these skins. The boy thinks that this money might be enough for a lifetime. Ryu says that this money will definitely be enough for him. The girl politely bows and thanks the boy for the successful deal. She takes a pouch of money from the counter and slides it to the boy. The coins in the stacks shone brightly and looked quite noticeable. Max says he has never seen so much money. The local adventurers also praised Ryu for the profitable deal, and some even considered him cool. After all, such money is usually only held by aristocrats or the highest level adventurers. Ryu begins to understand that all the monsters he defeated were actually very strong. Suddenly, Lear starts to speak to him with thoughts. She confirms that the monsters defeated by this boy were very strong. She is proud that the boy trained specifically in their forest. The boy calms down and wonders why the girl is so proud of this. The boy takes the bag of money. Now they have money, and they can go to the king. The travelers hope that no problems will arise on the way. A long road with many steps led to the king. When they reached the castle, they were greeted by a huge arched entrance and a stone wall with columns. The king sits on the throne. A guard runs up to him and says that a problem has arisen. The king asks in surprise what happened. The guard immediately kneels on one knee and reports that he has very important news. The guard immediately reports that a man has appeared in the city who very much wants to meet the king. He looks like a simple peasant but has brought with him the skin of rank monsters. The guard considers this character very suspicious and asks the king what to do next. The king was silent for a moment and quickly agreed. He ordered to bring this stranger to him. The king decided that this person might be useful to him and instructed the guards not to let him go. Ryu and Lear stop to rest. A woman enters the room and gives the boys their things. She says she washed everything and sewed up all the holes. The man takes his clothes and sincerely thanks the woman. He apologizes for having to use her shirt. The woman asks discontentedly what the boy was doing because his clothes were very worn out. She recalls that when he came, she thought he looked like a beggar. The guy pretended it was a joke and laughed awkwardly. He can't say that he is training in the forest with Fenrir. Lear mentally asks this boy if they will go to the castle today. The boy agrees, as the guards already promised them this yesterday. As it turned out yesterday, the guards caught the boys right at the entrance, and now everyone in the guild knows that they are going to the king. The boy gathered his thoughts. Now he is sure that he will go to the king. Ryu is already inside the palace. He stands before huge carved doors. A large arched passage with columns leads to them, and near almost every column stands a guard. Suddenly one of the guards says that the king is waiting for the boy. Ryu walks through the hall and wonders who these guards are and why they are here. Ryuji begins to think that the king wants to meet them exactly like that. Two guards open the large doors in front of the boy and ask him to behave more respectfully. The doors open right in front of you and bright light pours from them. The boy stands before the king, who sits on the throne. To emphasize his status, the throne is placed on a raised platform with several steps. The king looked carefully at the boy. Ryu immediately understood that this dwarf was very strong. He had learned to sense the strength of an opponent when fighting powerful monsters. The strength of this king could easily match the most dangerous beasts. The boy remembers that he should behave more modestly. He kneels and greets the king. Ryu introduces himself as a mentor. The king says that he was informed. This man came to the city to sell some things and buy himself clothes. The man agrees and points to his goods. He wants to continue speaking, but the king interrupts him and asks him to answer the question. The king looks at him sternly and directly asks if he stole this leather. The boy was very surprised by such a question. He refused and explained that he got this skin while hunting. Ryu wondered what exactly he did wrong if the king considers him a thief. The king thought for a moment. He looks more closely and says that even from here it is clear. These are very high-quality materials. He asks if you obtained them while hunting in the great forest, since he himself is only a mentor. The king interrupts him to stop talking nonsense, because the famous Fenrir lives in that forest. The boy was a little confused after such words from the king. He believes that the king is not familiar with Grandma. Ryu decides to remain silent about it for now. But the boy apologizes and explains that he came to the king with a request because an acquaintance advised him to do so. The king is curious who this person is, so he clarifies the boy's question. Ryu replies that the friend has no name. She is an ordinary huntress. The king turns away, finding it hard to believe what he heard from the boy. Lear mentally tells the boy that the eagle is behaving very rudely. Ryu says that the wolf should calm down. The boy realizes that something is wrong here. Although grandmother said that they have known the king for a long time, it seems he does not remember her. Moreover, there are many armed soldiers nearby. The king is sure that the boy is simply lying to him. Ryu thinks that maybe it is worth asking the king directly. The king strokes his beard and agrees. He offers the boy to discuss all the conditions. The king also offers to make equipment for him. And for this, the boy must leave all the skins. The king wanted to add something else about the skins, but the boy got up from his knees and declared that he did not agree to such conditions, Your Majesty. The king wrinkled his nose. He did not expect such an answer from the boy. He shouted and was sure that he would not give this skin to the king. The king sneered contemptuously and asked what that was supposed to mean. Ryu says he feels he cannot trust the king. He says goodbye to him and explains that despite the king's status, he does not want to deal with such a person. Suddenly, the guard immediately attacks the boy. Have you finally realized that telling the king is worthless? At that moment, the grandfather tensed and hunched over, then suddenly shouted loudly that the boy had a stroke. The king ordered to capture the boy and the liar. The guards immediately surrounded the travelers with spears. Lear said she could do something about it, but Ryu strictly forbade her to interfere. He explained that if they attacked the king, the problems would only increase. The king asked the boy if he will resist. Ryu explains that in such a situation he cannot defeat this force. The king smiles, understanding that the boy has made a wise decision, and orders him to be taken to prison. The guard tells the boy to come in and pushes him forward. Ryu and Lear ended up in the dungeon. Ryu gets upset, runs his hand over the back of his head, and complains that all his skin was torn off. Lear looks reproachfully at the boy and says that in that case, he should have resisted. The boy explains to the girl that in that case they would have many enemies, and they would be expelled from the country. Moreover, the king could become the elder's enemy. Now Lear understands how serious everything is. Fortunately for the boy, the Fang remained with him. It was good that the soldiers did not search him. But then the boy was distracted by a man behind him. Ryu was so scared that he almost fainted. The man sitting behind asked the boy why he was imprisoned. Ryu was surprised that there was someone else next to him, as this man was so quiet that he didn't even notice him. The man explains that he refused to sell the skin to the king. The dwarf sighs and realizes that this is not an important reason at all. Ryu wonders why this person is here. The men look serious and say only one word: betrayal. The essence is this. This man tried to dissuade the king from hunting monsters in the great forests. Even if all the hunters of the kingdom gather, they will not be able to defeat Fenrir. Now Ray understands everything. That's why the king wanted his skin so much. But still, putting people in prison for that is too much. Ray says aloud that the king is quite hot-tempered. The boy thinks that if this man knows the elder, then he must be some kind of cool gnome. But the man says that their king raised the boy. Ryu is very surprised. After this, the gnome explains that he is the younger brother of their king, and his name is Gnome. Ryu was stunned by this news. It turned out the dwarf gathered his loyal warriors and seized the throne. He looks very much like their king, so no one noticed the substitution. But when the dwarf learned about the plan to attack the great forest, he immediately understood everything. Ryu asks where the real king is now, and the dwarf replies that he is being held in solitary confinement. Unlike others, the true king sits behind huge iron doors, and to prevent him from escaping, a severe curse was placed on the room. Now the boy understands what the old man was saying about his older brother. I need to get my brother out and tell him everything. Rose says he understood everything and encourages Lear to go with him. He thanks her for the help. The man asks the main character in surprise if he really wants to escape from here, as it is impossible. Even a dwarf could not break these bars. But the boy confidently approaches the grate with Lear and says that nothing is impossible for them. He swings with all his might and strikes the iron bars with Fenrir's gun. The bars crack into pieces. The dwarf sitting by the wall looks at this in shock. In front of him stands an unfamiliar boy in a wolf's skin. The man asks who they are. Ryu extends his hand to the gnome to help. He says he is a mentor, and the wolf beside him is his friend and assistant. The gnome understood everything and accepted the boy's help. They are walking down the corridor. Only fragments of iron bars remain in place. It seems they are in their place. The boy cautiously peeks around the corner. Only 2 guards stand by the cursed iron doors. The gnome asks if the boy can really help their king. Ryu replies that he has business with the true king, so he will definitely help them. Ryu cautiously asks the gnome if he knows how to fight. The dwarf proudly says that he is a warrior. But first, he needs to get a weapon. The boy happily comes out from around the corner and says that in that case they will go ahead, and the dwarf will cover them from behind. The guard had just woken up when he suddenly noticed 2 figures rapidly flying straight at him. Suddenly, the guards started shouting that they were not allowed here. The boy ignored these shouts and mentally asked Lear not to touch the guards. Lear must try to turn them off without causing serious harm. Lear understood the boy's instructions and began to act. At that moment, one of the guards swung a spear, but the main character still managed to dodge to the side. But Ryu notices that the guards move much slower than Fenrir, and it is easy to predict their actions. Ryu is confident of victory. He approaches from behind and attacks one of the guards. Suddenly, one of the guards swung his sword at the wolf, shouting that he would deal with it in one strike. But suddenly he noticed that the blade of his sword had disappeared. As it turned out, Lear had managed to see his intentions and disarmed him. Now Ryu approaches the guard and says that he is moving too slowly. After that, he kicks the guard. The guards were neutralized. Ruse shouts to the gnome that everything is ready. The gnome approaches the guys and sincerely wonders how they managed to cope, as their soldiers are not weak at all. Ryu explains this by saying that he trained a lot. The man asks what they will do with the door. Ryu knocks his finger on the door. He understands that she is strong, but she is also cursed. He was made so that it is impossible to escape from the inside, but the curse does not affect those outside. Ryu once again takes the Elder Fenrir blade in his hands and swings it with all his might. The strike is so powerful that the cursed doors shatter into small fragments. The king sits by the wall. He simply raises his head and asks who they are. Ryu approaches closer, extends his hand, and says he is glad to meet them. The man introduces himself, states his name and profession. He asks the gnome if he is really King Dongwar of the gnomes. The gnome confirms and asks how they got here. Ryu, smiling, says that his brother helped him. The king bows his head and apologizes for his foolish brother. Ryu sits down nearby and says that the king should not apologize because he has a request for Dovar. Reo asks if the king can make equipment for him. The king is surprised by such a request and asks why he should do it. Reo explains that probably Fenrir advised him to turn to the king, as he praised his skill highly. Suddenly, the king became angry and declared that such a thing simply could not be. After all, Fenrir had never communicated with humans, so he asked the boy to tell him the truth. Then Ryu asked for permission to prove his point. He took the Elder Fenrir's fang and asked Lear to transform into a human. The girl transformed and became like a human. The king was very surprised to see Fenrir's transformation magic. Ryu introduced the girl as the Elder's granddaughter. The boy gives the king a fang and asks him to look at it. The king realizes that the boy is telling the truth. He apologizes for the distrust and promises to fulfill the boy's request. The boy is very glad that the king agreed to help him. The king explains that he cannot refuse Fenrir's friend. As an apology, he asks for permission to do something with this fang. Suddenly the king, like a small child, looks at the fangs of Fenrir's elders. He says it will be only a legendary weapon, and he will create a true masterpiece. After all, such a chance comes only once in a lifetime, and it will not allow anyone else even to touch this award. The king kneels and asks for permission to forge a weapon for this boy. The boy is a bit confused by the situation because he did not expect such a reception at all. But since he is acquainted with the elder, he will have to allow the king to make a weapon for him. The boy smiles and says that he trusts the king. The king nods in response and thanks for such an opportunity. Ryu understands that he still needs to resolve the issue with the king's brother. However, reclaiming the throne will be much more difficult than it seems. The king reassures the boys, as the throne still belongs to him. He is going to call loyal people to prove Dorf's betrayal. The boy was already about to leave, but Ryu clenched his fists and asked why they wouldn't overthrow the Lion King. It seemed that someone intended to respond with a blow. Ryu and Lear approach another prison cell, while a group of dwarves steps aside and watches everything that is happening. Ryu takes the fang of the old Fenrir, and after a few swings cuts through the iron bars of the cage. He urges the freed dwarves to escape faster. Ryu approaches one of the prisoners and asks if he is okay. The dwarf replies somewhat uncertainly that everything is fine. The man turns and addresses the king. He asks if everyone has already been freed, and if there is anyone else who needs help. The king thanks the man for helping to liberate all his subjects. Ryu is very satisfied with how everything turned out. Now he has decided to overthrow the Lion King together with his new allies. Suddenly the king, noticing such stubbornness, says that the boy does not have to go against the Lion King at all. The king says he got into such trouble only because he lost vigilance. The dwarf asks Ryu to allow him to deal with it on his own. The king clenches his fist near his chest. He believes that as the older brother, he should talk to the younger one and persuade him. Ryu noticed that the king was very worried and even a little guilty. He agreed with Mr. Dovar and asked him to be careful. The king told the man that if he and Lear go to the left, they will find a secret passage that leads to the street. When Mr. Dovar finishes his business, he will contact Ryu. The king, having finished talking with the boy, decided to raise the fighting spirit of his subordinates. Lord Dovar raised his hand and called on his comrades to return the throne to the true ruler. You just watched the angry crowd quickly walking away. The boy suggested Lyra return to the hotel. The girl agreed. The boys are walking along the path shown to them by Mr. Dovar. One of them says they need to turn left. Suddenly, Lear notices something strange. The girl's ears move in different directions to better hear where the sound is coming from. Lear asks Ryu if he heard anything. The boy denies it. Lear begins to hear again a barely audible sound that the girl heard a moment before. The voice seems very familiar to him. Ryu was already worried and asked the girl if it could have been a monster. However, Deer was not sure but precisely indicated from which side the sound came. Ryu approached the corner and after a few seconds jumped out from there, holding the old Fenrir's fang in his hands. As it turned out, a chick was lying on the ground. It did not even have the strength to stand on its legs. It seemed completely exhausted. The girl is curious about how the chick ended up here. Ryu says that it probably just got lost because it looks very weak. Ryu extends a hand to the chick to check how it feels. But the chick notices this out of the corner of its eye and suddenly starts squeaking loudly. Along with this, large tongues of flame burst from its beak, nearly touching Ryu and Lazare. The boy was truly surprised that this chicken could breathe fire. But Lear explained that it was not strange, because it was not just an animal, but a real monster. The chicken begins to squeak fretfully, and more flames fly from its beak. Ryu stretches out his hands in front of him, trying to calm the creature, and says that he is not an enemy. The chicken weakly squeaked one last time and fell. Did you wonder what could have happened? In the end, he sees no external injuries. The boy picked up the chicken in his arms. Lear decided that he was simply hungry, because when she herself was hungry, she felt the same weakness. Ryu began rummaging through his pockets in search of food, but remembered that all their belongings had been taken. Ryu suggests Lear take the chicken with him and continue to get out of the dungeon. The man promises that as soon as they get outside, he will immediately find something edible for the creature. The boys successfully escaped from the dungeon. They are sitting at a table near the hotel. Lear and Ryu got food for the chicken. She is happily enjoying what she was given. Ryu smiles and notices that although the chicken is small, it is enough for 3. Lear notices that he now looks healthy. Ryu agrees with the girl and takes the chicken in his hands. The boy stretches out his hands forward with the chicken so that it can take off and fly home. Instead of running away, the chicken turns back to Ryu, and after another squeak, begins to rub against his palm. Lear notices that the chicken has become attached to the boy. Ryu agrees with the girl's observation. Lear asks you if you want to make a contract with the monster. The boy explains to the girl that he did not save this creature for that at all. But Ryu thinks that if the chicken wants to be near him, he is not against it at all. He turns to the chicken and asks if she wants to make a contract with him. Lyra clearly did not like this remark. She looked at him reproachfully and turned away. She reminded the boy, "I am following you too, aren't I? I wonder what this girl is thinking." The guy, without hesitation, suggests resting at the hotel today, and tomorrow going to the palace of King Dovar. It was a sunny morning. Bright rays had already filled the room and did not let the boy sleep even an extra minute. Ryu wrinkles his nose because he does not understand why it is so hard for him. It seemed to him as if something heavy was pressing on his stomach. Ryu lifts his upper body and rubs his eyes, thinking that maybe Leo climbed onto the bed. As it turned out, instead of Lyris, a huge bird was lying on the bed, and it was because of it that Ryu could not sleep properly. The boy looks at the bird somewhat surprised. When he finally understood what was happening, he still could not believe his eyes. Ryu screamed and woke up Lear. The girl, rubbing her eyes, asked in surprise why the boy was shouting. Reyus pointed at the bird a little panicked and asked Lear to look at it. Lear immediately recognizes the bird. It is the same chicken they rescued in the dungeon and tamed yesterday. Ryu asks the girl why this creature has grown so much. Lear explains that the monster has become much stronger. Monsters can evolve by absorbing magical energy. Ryu could not even imagine that this was possible. Lear thought again, as this happens very rarely. The girl is sure that this child is special. But Lear does not manage to finish when suddenly there is a loud knock on the door of the room. It turns out that soldiers have come, and the bird is very frightened by the unexpected noise. The bird jumped up, instantly spread its wings. Within seconds, it flapped its wings and quickly flew out the window. The maid enters the room and asks Ryu to answer, as he has already woken up. Ryu and Lear only manage to glance at the trail of birds in the sky. As it turned out, Ryu is summoned to the king. The king is already waiting for the boy. Ryu and Lear approach the throne and greet his majesty. The king says he is glad to see the boy. Ryu asks King Dovar if he has dealt with his younger brother. The king confirms and adds that all this was made possible thanks to Ryu. But the king wanted Ryu to first talk to one person before he started preparing equipment and crafting weapons for this boy. Suddenly, the king spoke harshly to the shadow standing by the stairs to the throne and ordered her to talk to Ryu. As it turned out, this figure was the king's younger brother, Dorf. He folded his hands in front of him and addressed Mr. Ryu and Mrs. Lager. The younger brother of the king suddenly falls to his knees and bows his head before the boy. He sincerely asks for forgiveness. You agree, and you notice that Dorf seems to have become a completely different person. After that, Lear peeks out from behind the boy and asks Dorf why he decided to pretend to be a king. Dorf confessed with shame that he had always envied his older brother. After all, Dorf's brother is a world-renowned master. Everyone in the district talked about his brother, and the youngest was not even trusted with the materials. The younger brother confesses to everyone present that he was very hurt by such an arrangement. The dwarf admits that one day he will lure his brother into a trap and put him in the car. When the younger brother became king, he gained access to all the country's resources. The dwarf could get anything he wanted. Dorf explains that it was then that Ryu and Lyre appeared. The king's younger brother, just by looking at the materials the boy brought, immediately understood. Ryu had obtained a unique first-class product with an A rating, which could not be found anywhere else in the country. Dorf admits that when he found out that the man works as a mentor, he immediately understood that taking the materials for reuse would be easier. But, as the Lion King recalls, the guy refused to sell the materials to his mother. Then the gnome realized that Ryu had figured him out and that he had made a big mistake because he couldn't hold back his emotions then. The younger brother bows his head to the boy for the last time and asks for forgiveness. He understands everything and forgives Dorf. Suddenly, King Dovar himself supports the apology of his younger brother. He sincerely asks to forgive his brother and requests to hear one more of his pleas. King Dovar, with a serious expression, asks Ryu to allow Dorf to make equipment for the boy. The younger brother was very surprised by such a proposal from the king. After a moment, Dorf began to object to his brother, but Ryu interrupted them. He asks why the king addressed him specifically. King Dovar explains that although he himself can create the best weapons, his brother is much more skilled at crafting equipment. The king clenches his hand into a fist and says that this is exactly how they can atone for their guilt. Memories of the king. The first brother wipes sweat from his forehead. He is very tired from hard work. Meanwhile, the other brother examines a valuable dagger that shines in his hands and literally enchants him. He and his brother always did everything together. But over time, he began to distance himself and take all the matters upon himself. Because of this, the brother had no opportunity to express himself, and he did not even realize how much it hurt his brother. When he said goodbye to him, Dorf looked at him with sadness. Our time. The king and his brother stand together with Lear and Ryu in the middle of the corridor. The king thinks that if he had acted differently earlier, this conflict could have been avoided. But as the older brother, he did not manage. Dorf tries to convince his brother that in reality, everything is not like that. But the king does not listen to him, assures Mr. Ryu of his abilities, and asks if he can fulfill one of his requests. Then Lear called him by name, and he, understanding where it was leading, replied that he was counting on the king's younger brother. The king thanks you, but his brother does not understand why he agreed. The lord explains that he could not refuse the help of the two best craftsmen in the country. If they create the best equipment and weapons, then there will be no problems. The king asks if Dorf understood everything correctly. The younger brother still does not believe that all this is true, and asks the elder if everything is really fine, since he had caused so much harm before. His older brother suggests, if he truly regrets his action, let him make the best equipment in the world for you. Moreover, he always boasts that he is a great master and asks to prove it with deeds, not to be left with nothing. He asks Dorf not to let him down because it could ruin his reputation. He also emphasizes that they should work at full capacity, like before, when they did everything together. The king extends his hand to him. He shakes it in response, and tears of joy appear in the eyes of his younger brother. The gnome deftly lifts his brother's hand and says that, of course, he will make the best equipment in this country. Ryu has been watching them for some time and joins the conversation. He says he is glad because the brothers have finally reconciled. The king apologizes to him for having to wait, but when all problems are solved, it is time to move on. After some time, a small village. Tia says they haven't returned here for a long time. She added that probably a whole crowd of people will gather now. The boy next to her replied that she is a heroine, so it's no wonder everyone loves her. He wants to meet Ryu as soon as possible, and asks the girl to hurry because they have been friends for a long time, and have not seen each other for a very long time. She agrees with Taiga and hopes that the guy is doing well because they want to discuss many important issues with him. But when they get closer to the house, they see that it is destroyed. Anyone can come and see what is inside. Both heroes are stunned and do not know what to do, because when they left the house, everything was fine. A guard approaches them and, calling them heroes, asks why they are here. The girl tries to tell him about Ryu but cannot gather her thoughts to say it. She is only worried about what happened to Ryu and where he is now. The man asks Tia to calm down and not panic prematurely. He explained to the guard that their friend lived here and asked to be told what happened to him, because everything was fine before. The man says that their friend has disappeared. They stand up and look at him stunned, not knowing what to say. Such news was a surprise to them. Tia does not understand how he could have disappeared. And Taiga, in turn, asks how long he has been gone. He tells them that about 2 months have passed. One night the man heard a loud noise, ran over, and the house was already destroyed and he couldn't do anything. The boy asks the guard if he has any idea why he was left behind. But the guard knows nothing because he cannot read other people's thoughts. He worked hard every day and always helped everyone with the livestock, so no one could imagine that he would not be here. The guard, with regret on his face, says that during the search of the house they only found patches of fur, and he doubts that it belongs to an ordinary animal. It was probably some kind of monster that took him. The girl's expression changes sharply. Tia suddenly turns around and goes to her horse, saying she is going to look for the main character. Taiga tries to stop her because they still have a mission. She tells him that she will look for you and at the same time will not forget about the task, so the boy has nothing to worry about. But Taiga notes that she doesn't even know where exactly to look. However, the girl replies that it doesn't matter. She will still look for him everywhere. She says that you must wait for her because she will definitely find him and will not let him die. Meanwhile, in the place where Ryu is, he suddenly sneezes as soon as he remembers Tia, and Lear, standing nearby, wonders if he has fallen ill. The rescue operation has already begun. The younger brothers of the king is actively forging weapons in his smithy, and everyone around is closely watching his work. And when everyone in the room sees that he still could not melt this material, they sigh with disappointment. And Ryu draws conclusions and begins to explain to him that this material does not melt, and perhaps he should try again. But sadness and disappointment are visible on Dorf's face. He says he has tried many times to melt the fang, but nothing worked. Now it becomes clear that melting this thing is not so simple, as this fang is very strong. The gnome understands that if this is truly Fenrir's fang, then only a flame as powerful as that of the ancient elder can melt it. Ray is not sure if there is even a flame that can be compared to Fenrir's flame. The girl with cat ears is recalling something, and he asks what they think about Garthaflame. The heroine, stunned, repeats the same question. One of the brothers interrupts the conversation and does not understand which hail is being talked about, and whether it is really about the legendary bird. Another brother heard that Nazna has the power to kill dragons, but the elder hesitates, wondering if these are just children's tales. So they did see her? If they suggested using a guard, the girl turns to the boy and asks if he still understands what she means. He says that they found a chick in the dungeon. He asks, "Where did you get it from?" He is surprised to learn that it was a guardian. The girl says that thanks to his magic, the bird grew very quickly, while ordinary monsters cannot grow that fast, because only high-ranking monsters are capable of this. So she is sure that he did it. The older brother asks where he is. Ryu tries to explain where he is now, but Dorf decided that he had already flown away. Then the king reasons that most likely he could be on the mountain behind the castle. Dorf asks his brother if he is sure about this, since a lot of time has passed since he left. But he explains to him that there is no other way, and only the guard can create a powerful flame to melt the fangs. The brothers ask Mr. Ryu to set out on the search, as they themselves cannot leave the castle unattended, and feel guilty because of it. He tells them that they can rely on him and not worry after some time. The girl and the boy are in the desert. The main character promised the brothers that he would find him, but finding Garrett was not so easy. The boy thought he said it too confidently, to which the girl replied that maybe he was right. But when the guardian felt the mana of the main character, he should have immediately flown to him as he remembered him. Didn't you think that the main character could turn out to be a bait? The main heroine tells her to go look somewhere else because there are still many places they haven't been to or searched. The girl heard some noise and asked him to stop because Lear heard voices from the other side. They turn around and see a little bird trying to escape and not get caught in the monster's mouth, and the monster is chasing after it. The heroes realize that it is indeed Gerard, but the girl notices that he is somehow flapping his wings strangely and cannot run properly. Ryu says that he is probably injured and asks Lear to hurry. The girl replies that she understands everything and they are already rushing to help him. The monster had already approached the small chick and almost attacked it, but Lear managed to stop the beast. She asks the main character if Garrett is okay. Ryu examines the bird and says that he does not see any external injuries, but that does not mean he is fine. They decide to return to the castle and discuss the flame they will need to later melt the fang. After some time, everyone gathers in the castle. Garrett lies unconscious on the pillow and gradually regains strength. Reo was surprised when he saw that the bird was much closer than he thought. It was unexpected for him. He believed that the guard would fly much farther, and Lear assumed that perhaps he had no parents. The main character asks Lear if she really thinks that this is why he ended up alone in the dungeon and not for some other reason. The girl says that he has nowhere to return to, so he couldn't have escaped from them too far. Now everything becomes clear to Ryu. The king enters the room and asks the main character how the guard is feeling. He says that he is fine, just a little tired. Now Garrett needs to be given some time to rest. Only you cannot be 100% sure that you will be able to help them. The bird begins to slowly regain consciousness. The boy notices this. He is interested in how the guard feels and says that he can rest a little longer. The bird did not expect to see so many people when it woke up, so she immediately flies to Ryu, grabs him by the shoulder, and tells him something in her bird language. The main character asks if he is still afraid of people and requests that he no longer do so, and calms him down, saying that it is safe here and there is nothing to worry about. You can just relax. The girl watches them attentively for a while. Then he asks if the main character wants to sign a contract with Gerard. Ryu did not expect to hear this, and does not understand why he needs it. Lear says that if they are not nearby, the bird may get into trouble, and in general, he needs a person he can rely on. In such a situation, the best solution would be to sign a contract. Ryo believes that this contract is a good idea, but wants Goddard to decide for himself what to do. Ryu asks Garda if he wants to make a contract with him because he really needs his strength. But if he does not want this, he can calmly leave and still wants to hear the answer. So he asked what he chooses. All present are watching the boy and the bird. The bird is looking attentively at the main character. Garrett flapped his wings and rose into the air. The boy watches him closely, a little stunned by what he sees. The bird perches on his shoulder as if agreeing with his proposal and chirps cheerfully in its bird language. Ryu cannot believe it and asks again if he is really sure about his decision. The bird chirps in response. This once again confirms her choice. Lear praises this boy for managing to make a contract with the legendary bird, as it is very difficult. He thanks her and asks how to address him. The villager standing nearby wonders if he really wants to meet Garrett. The king says that such an opportunity is very rare and suggests continuing the conversation in the town square because the view there is beautiful. After some time, all four together with Jared came to the square. Ryu does not understand why there are so many people here. Here gathered both guards and local residents. Someone loudly shouts the king's name, and the hero asks if it is normal for so many people to have gathered here. The king apologizes to him, as due to his status it was impossible to avoid attention, and he himself did not want to attract too much attention. He asks if it would be better to come another time, but Ryu replies that everything is fine and it is better to finish as soon as possible, otherwise it will drag on for several more days. Holding the bird in his hand, the main character says that he will now give it a name and make a deal with it. The boy explains to the legendary bird that he will now perform a ritual, and from this moment they will become family. He says he will be glad if God supports this idea. God gives a signal, agreeing with his words. Then the main character begins to perform the ritual, and the bird flies closer to the rifle. And Ryu, smiling at the bird, said that now his name was Korin. She only closed her eyes upon hearing these words. In their place appears a fiery hurricane that sweeps away everything in its path. The king does not understand what is happening. Rue is also confused because this has happened for the first time. But Lear notices something in the storm's whirl, and shouts to the boy to look in the direction she is pointing. It turned out that inside the hurricane there was an egg that continued to hang in the air, although there was nothing nearby. The heroes approach closer and do not understand if Karen is here. Lear says that most likely, Garrett is changing. Ray believes that this only happens to very strong monsters. He cannot understand if Karen is like that. Lear, in turn, explains to the main character that evolution is gaining a new form and power, and thanks to Rias's power, she will be able to evolve. The girl is curious about what the guard will look like, and it is important to her that he is greeted properly. The egg begins to crack. The main character says that Karen is about to hatch, and reaches out to catch the little one so no one falls. The girl with wings is falling, but you manage to catch her and gently lay her on the ground. He asks if everything is okay with Karina because she appeared in the world so unexpectedly, but in response, Garrett simply calls him Dad. The main character cannot believe that he was called that because it was a complete surprise to him. But Karen continues and says that despite the fact that a lot of time has passed since their last meeting, he has not changed at all and is still just as cool. Although he said they would be close like family, he did not expect her to take it so seriously. And why does Korin call him Dad? These questions did not give him peace. And yet Ryu wonders why she took human form and calls him Dad. Karen answers that she has always been lonely. When she was born, there were neither parents nor friends nearby, and she constantly searched for them. But as soon as people saw her, they immediately started attacking, and all her life she had to keep running and hiding from them. Now Lear understands why she ran away when she heard the soldiers approaching. Karen says she noticed everything correctly, but that day her dad and sister helped her. She means you and Lear. It was the first time she was treated with such kindness. That is why she loved them very much. And she decided to become like them, that is a human. The heroes look at each other, after which Ryu approaches Karina, pats her on the head, and says he understands everything. From the whirlwind, the voice of the king is heard. He asks if everything is all right with Mr. Ryu and requests an answer. The hero says that he is fine and asks Karen to extinguish the flame. She immediately fulfills his request. Ryu waves his hand to attract attention, and Dorf notices the boys walking one after another. The main character approaches the brothers and says that everything went well. Dorf does not realize how big an achievement this is. After all, they really caused a real storm here. When the younger brother calms down, the king asks, "Who is this girl next to you?" He introduces her to the brothers and says that this is Karen, and she has decided to become human. Dorf is very surprised by what he heard, as a guard is standing in front of him. But the king is not surprised at all, because this is exactly the kind of behavior you expect from a legendary bird. Ryu asks if they will manage if Karen helps them. He says that with such strength, they definitely will have no problems. Then Ryu said it was time to return to the workshop and get to work, and also asked them to calm the townspeople. When they were returning back, a feather fell out of Karen and remained lying on the ground. But one young man picked it up and began to examine it carefully, quietly saying to himself that he wanted to find out who this Ryu was, as he was clearly an unusual person. A month passes. Dorf asks the main character to try on his new invention. Lara stands nearby and is also waiting for him to put it on. The gnome says that this is his masterpiece, leather armor that he made with his own hands. Ryu is simply delighted and says that this armor is incredible, and he can't believe he was able to create such a cool thing. Dorf replies that it's all thanks to the rare materials. Moreover, he introduced an effect that disables temperature changes. The main character does not understand what is meant, so he asks for a more detailed explanation. He simply explains to him that neither fire nor ice magic will work on this armor. The resistance to fire magic should be credited to Korin. This effect appeared because her feathers were added to the material. He is also confident that protection from cold and heat will be very useful. Rue with sparks in his eyes. Thank you, Dorf, with admiration. Only the sword remains in the room, and at that moment the king enters and apologizes for making someone wait. He informs him that his sword is already ready. The main character says that it was truly worth waiting for this job. Dorf adds in surprise that this sword is made from Fenrir's fang. But Ryu asks, wasn't it supposed to be a dagger, and why is it sharpened only on one side? The king explains to him that this sword is special. He used techniques from Eastern countries, as they believe that if you sharpen the blade on one side, it becomes sharper. Korin, who came in with the king, says that she also helped him create this weapon. Ryu strokes her head and praises her at the same time. He continues, and says that now all that remains is to give this weapon a name. The main character does not understand why the blade needs a name. The king explains that it is important to make an engraving so that everyone knows. This sword belongs to him alone, and only he has the right to use it. 127. You did not expect such a request, so your mind is completely blank. But suddenly a brilliant idea comes to you. He suggests naming the sword Wolf. The king agrees and says that now the sword will bear this name. Leah responds that it was predictable, and Rii does not understand what the problem is. The eldest of the brothers says that there is no point in destroying anything. It is better to test it in a real battle. The main character agrees with him, after some time. In the square in the city center, a large crowd gathered again around Ryu and his companions. Someone from the people shouted that it seems some kind of show is about to start here, and everyone is already eagerly waiting for it. The main character is surprised that so many people have gathered. The king says with regret that they have probably learned about him again. The king assured him that there was no need to worry. They would not let the townspeople get too close. Ryu replied that he understood everything but would not rush too much to avoid accidentally hurting anyone. The king said to begin. Everyone listened attentively to the speaker, who announced that the testing of the sword made by the king himself was about to begin. Finally, the king asks him to release all the magical power along with the sword, as he needs to understand how powerful this sword is. Ryu says he understands everything, and now he is standing alone in the square. All the citizens are looking exactly at him. The main character thinks, although he was told not to hold back, he is worried that his strength might hurt people. Therefore, he decides it is better to punch the sky. He swung the sword. Everyone is watching carefully where the strike is going and in which direction the sword is moving. From such a blow, the clouds scatter in different directions. Everyone is simply shocked. Even Ryu himself is surprised. People began to rejoice, saying it was simply incredible, and did not expect to see anything like it at all. Everyone also admired the incredible strength of the main hero. Ryu himself does not believe what happened, and Karen says that her dad is the strongest. Lear comes closer and says that this is exactly the result he expected from him. The king approaches the hero and says that this was to be expected from Fenrir's fangs, as the power of magic here is on a completely different level. The king began to say that he was satisfied with everything, but their conversation was interrupted by a voice asking everyone to look up. Everyone simultaneously raised their heads and saw a dragon flying in the sky. It was approaching faster and faster, and even stranger, someone was standing on the dragon's back. Ryu freezes in shock, watching the dragon flying right through the clouds straight towards them. Several people are visible on the dragon's back. When the dragon descends closer to the ground, the people standing on its back jump to the ground. They are standing opposite the main character and his friends. There are 4 of them in total, and they are all dressed in the same uniform. The man standing in front is the first to start the conversation and says that he and Ryu have not seen each other for a long time. But the boy was confused and cannot understand where he knows him from. At that moment, Lyra, on the contrary, comes to life upon seeing this man. She calls him grandfather. Ryu stands confused for a few seconds, and only then realizes that the elder is in front of him. And the man says with a smile that the main character is seeing him as a human, not a dragon, for the first time. But then the main character notices that Dad, Mom, and Grandmother Lear are standing behind. However, he is surprised because Grandmother looks very young. The woman, as if reading his thoughts, asks if he has ever wondered why she looks so young. The boy denies everything and says he has never thought about it at all. The king approaches Mr. Fenrir and asks how he is doing. He replies that he has no complaints about his health and, overall, everything is fine. And yet the king wonders why they came here. The elder replies that he just wanted to talk to Ryu. He wants to find out something, but does not want to discuss it in front of everyone. Therefore, he decided to postpone this conversation until later, when they are alone. The main character is curious about what exactly Mr. Fenrir wanted to find out from him. He explains that a very dangerous creature has recently awakened, and his name was given to him by the Dragon of Evil. This is a huge creature with 3 heads that can use various magic. The elder had fought it before, but even he could not defeat the monster, so he had to seal it. Ryu imagined him in his thoughts and decided that he was a real demon he did not want to deal with. Mr. Fenrir explained that he recently felt the seal begin to weaken, so he decided to prepare for battle. And during the battle itself, he will need any allies. That is why he came to ask Ryu for help. But the boy cannot even imagine such a thing and does not understand at all how to deal with it. Ryu approaches the old man and asks if he really believes he can handle the dragon. But the man just laughs loudly and says that he also studied in the Great Forest. Now he is much better than any ordinary person. He asks the main character to be a little more confident in himself. Ryu says that since the old man himself said these words, he will do so, Lear. The main character peeks out from behind and says he will also help his grandfather. Ryu addresses the elder and asks where the dragon is now. The man replies that it is located in the Dragon Empire. Since the seal is located in a cave near the Imperial Castle, this time everyone will fight together. And he will tell you all the details on the way to the kingdom. Ryu does not understand how this is even possible. Suddenly a strange sound comes from behind. Turning around, Ryu notices a huge dragon, and it scares him a lot. The dragon said that this is quite an interesting situation, as he could not even imagine that Fenrir would ask a human for help. He leaned his head toward the main character and asked if he was a student of some elder, and Ryu doesn't even believe that he is now talking to the same dragon who brought the entire Lear family. Mr. Fenrir decided to introduce him to the others. As it turned out, this is his son-in-law, an earthly dragon. The elder's son-in-law is glad to meet the main character. The boy replies that he is also very glad to meet him. Ryu is amazed that the legendary monsters are one family and can even speak the human language. The people in the square do not understand what is happening and do not believe that the main character can talk to the dragon. Fenrir says that his son-in-law will take them to the Dragon Empire. Ryu admits that it is a bit too much for him, and he is not yet completely confident in his abilities. But his brothers convince him. They are also heading to this empire, because such an adventure definitely cannot be missed. But a little later, everyone flies to the Dragon Empire. The elder sits with them and asks the main character how things are going with his new girlfriend. Then he laughs and says that he is not only Lear but also Corinna, then praises the boy, but still asks him to look more closely so that he has enough strength to take care of both. A dad who is always there. And here is their conversation with Grandpa. Lear tells the man that he is not a good person. At first, Ryu took his daughter away from him, and now he is also betraying her and warning that it will all end soon. The girl's mother is hitting the man on the head and telling him not to talk nonsense. Then she turns to the main character and asks him not to pay attention to it. She says that her husband actually missed him very much. Ryu notices that they haven't seen each other for a month. He tells her parents that the girl is very worried about Karen. They always eat together and even bathe together. Lear says that this is how she takes care of her younger sister. Then Grandpa Lear asks Karen about her parents and whether they will worry about her. The same girl holding the hand of her older sister says that she has no parents, but she does have Ryu and Lear. Then the older sister replies that everything is fine. Although she is still very young, she was lucky to meet such good people on her way. And he tells Corinne to understand. If his granddaughter considers her younger sister, then to them she is already like a real daughter. Although it is unusual for her at first, he asks her to consider them her family. The rest of the family also smiles gently at her. Corinne is filled with joy. Her eyes shine with happiness, and a smile appears on her face. She tells him that she understands everything and thanks him. After some time, they ride on the Earth Dragon. He says they will be there soon. Ryu looks around and admires the landscapes of Earth. Everything looks simply wonderful. He sees the whole city, and it seems so big. The main character can't even believe that this is really happening to him. He leans forward slightly to get a better look at the area, and asks if this is the Dragon Empire. The elder confirms his suspicions and says that this entire city and palace are the Dragon Empire. The dragon also joins the conversation and admits that he does not like the empire because it seems too small to him. The main character cannot understand how such a country can be considered small. The dragon explained that they and the Dragonites are good friends. But since the Dragonites are the same height as humans, they had to build a palace to human size. Fortunately, he has the magical power of transformation, so he can live there peacefully. Ryu said that it is not easy. After some time, they had already reached the gates. The Earth Dragon asks them to proceed further. Ro thanks him. A boy with long hair appears before him and leans toward his face. The dragon says he will show them everything around. The main character did not expect the Earth Dragon to suddenly become a human. Here they have already approached the gates, near which the guards are standing. The guards greet the master and bow to him, and he, in response, thanks them for their service. They ask if the people next to him are his friends. The man replies that yes, these are Fenrir and his family. One of the guards cannot believe it and says that with such a legendary creature on their side, victory is guaranteed. But the second guard wonders who this person is, pointing at Ryu. He explains to him that this is his student. But the guards do not understand how their master's apprentice can be human, and ask if everything will be all right, since humans are very weak. Ryu is not happy with such words, but cannot argue with them, as compared to them it is true. King Lear got angry and asked the guards if they really wanted to say that the student who studied under their elder was a weakling. The guard, frightened by Lear's formidable behavior, hurried to assure that they did not mean that at all. Ryu wonders why her father got so angry and defends him. The girl assumes that he probably thought they were perceived as weak. Lear, filled with anger and determination, understood everything and loudly declared that now they would show how strong their student is. As soon as they entered the territory, King Lear's father immediately asked to call his chief here, and stated that Ryu could kill him in 2 seconds. The boy himself does not even understand how he ended up in such a situation, and why others decide everything instead of him. But this boss looks very scary. He has small horns on his forehead, and now they are standing far from everyone to start their duel. King Lear's father shouts from the crowd that the boy has no right to lose at all, and Karen simply wishes the main character good luck. All this puts a lot of pressure on Ryu. He does not like this situation at all, because he never intended to take part in any fights. The Earth Dragon calls them to himself and offers to discuss the rules of the duel. He asks if they will agree if one of the sides can no longer fight and simply loses. The chief says he has no objection. The same is confirmed by the main character standing in front of him. The chief tells Ryu that although he is an ordinary person, there will be no mercy, so he should prepare himself. The Earth Dragon lowers his hand and announces that the duel begins. As soon as the start signal sounded, the leader did not hesitate for a second and immediately launched an attack. Thanks to his speed, he was already close to the enemy and even pointed his sword at him. But the main hero managed to stop him, although it was not easy. He barely repelled the attack. The boss retreated and began waiting for a better moment to attack. And that moment came. Almost immediately. Without wasting a second, he was again beside our hero, holding his sword at the ready. He sees how hard it is for the boy and asks what happened, and if he really intends to fight the Black Dragon with such powers. Ryu cannot withstand such an amount of attacks. This is beyond his strength. His opponent is not only strong but also very fast. Ryu cannot respond with a strike at all, but he cannot give up now as his reputation is at stake. He understands that he needs to use the sword technique. If he attacks with the help of magical power, there will be a chance to win. But he needs to control his power to use it accurately at the right moment. And when their swords clashed again, he realized it was time to use the sword technique. He touched the sharp edge of his blade to the opponent's sword, but he, without at all expecting the action of magical power, crashes into the wall so hard that a large dent remains there. Everyone present and watching what is happening is shocked by what happened. Even Ryu himself is in shock. The main character carefully holds the blade in his hands because he is not yet accustomed to the power of the wolf. The Earth Dragon raises his hand, signaling that the duel is over. He declares Ryu the winner. The guards who are watching everything run up to their commander lying on the floor. King Lear approaches the boy and begins to praise him, saying that he is doing well. Korin also rejoices with his father for his victory. Ryu is more worried about the condition of his opponent. He turns to the Earth Dragon and asks if he is all right. The man replies to him that nothing terrible happened to him because they both agreed to the duel, and nothing will happen to him in the future. So Ryu breathed a sigh of relief after these words. The elder also approaches the boy, places his hand on his shoulder, and says that the main character has become stronger. The Earth Dragon says he will open the gates to the Dragon Empire for them. He places his hands on the door to open it. But everyone froze in anticipation. He opens these gates with a certain feeling of heaviness. And yet he succeeds, and before them opens a wonderful landscape, where the beautiful nature of the empire is visible. The Earth Dragon leads them. Passing by a house, they see a man by the window, but his face is hidden in shadow. He says he did not expect that the Dragon Army's soldiers could be defeated so easily, as it seemed simply unreal. He eagerly awaits meeting the people who have just arrived, as they are very interesting individuals. The travelers are walking down the main street, where many people have gathered. Ryu looks around and admires how beautiful it is here. The Earth Dragon replies that this is the land of dragons, which is why it is so different from human places. Karin stops and looks carefully at the shop counter. Ryu and Lear notice this in Sector R. The girl asks what happened. Corinne did not expect anyone to follow her, so she simply said that everything was fine. Lear looks at the counter and sees that there are bows lying there. She decides that she wanted to buy one of them, and asks if she liked the bows. The Earth Dragon, hearing their conversation, says that there is still some time before the battle, so they can walk around the city on their own. Then the main character suggests they go shopping together and buy everything they want. The girls immediately agree and are very happy with such an offer. After some time, the dragon says that first they need to meet with the Emperor. All the passers-by they meet on the way are working and busy with their own affairs. Did you notice that there are many different races here, not just dragons? The Earth Dragon walking ahead says that this is indeed true, and that dragons treat all races well. Actually, dragonites are half dragons, half humans, and when they evolve, some of them develop a lizard head. The main character is interested in listening to him. He asks, "And who is this Emperor Dragon?" The dragon replies that the Emperor is the strongest dragon in the entire empire, and he is much more powerful than him. The boy cannot believe that the Emperor is so strong and mighty. The Earth Dragon interrupts his thoughts and says that he will understand everything as soon as he sees him. The dragon asks to enter the hall because they have already arrived and the conversation is over. The door opens. The main character sees the Emperor and Empress sitting on the throne before him. They both look friendly, and Ryu immediately notices that their aura is completely different from the others. At first glance, it is clear. This is the Imperial family. The Earth Dragon bows and greets the Emperor. They both rise from their thrones and approach the travelers who have just entered. The Emperor also greets the Earth Dragon, and the Empress adds that she did not expect him to find so many allies. Especially if this man managed to defeat the head of security, she begins to look at him with respect. But here her face changes. She smiles a little. She says she has never seen such strong people before. She hopes for the main character. The Earth Dragon turns to the boy and asks him to say something in response. But the emperor interrupts their conversation and says that he first wants to discuss tactics with the Fenrir family. The empress adds that rooms have already been prepared for the guests. The boys look at the rulers of the dragon country with surprise, and the elder asks, "What about the others?" When the emperor hears this question, his face changes, and he does not answer immediately, but still says that only they will take part in the battle. This news affected Roy the most. He still cannot believe that only they will take part in the battle. The emperor sadly says that it is true. They used to get along well with other races, but now, after the hero appeared, they refuse to support them. The elder says he understands everything, and the main character stands in complete shock, trying to comprehend what he heard. He wonders if everything will be all right, as there are very few of them left. During this conversation, he remembers the hero, and he recalls that Tia became a heroine, and thinks that maybe he should ask her for help. But the Earth Dragon says that it will not help, because the current heroine perceives any monsters as enemies. She even attacks half-humans. The main character cannot believe that Tia is attacking everyone indiscriminately, as he knows her well, and she is not that kind of person at all. The head of the Fenrir family understands that in such a situation, their chances of victory are very slim. The emperor apologizes. But now Reu remembered that even before their journey, Taiga had spoken about Tia's strange behavior. The hero asks Taiga if Tia has really been acting strange lately. Taiga replies that it is true. When they agree to the task of fighting monsters, Tia's face changes beyond recognition, and even he becomes scared. Ryu cannot believe his words because he clearly remembers that Tia used to be a real crybaby. Taiga remembers that too, but he still asks the main character if he knows what could have happened to her. In response, the main character only says that he has no idea what could have happened, and Taiga believes that she probably has a heroic spirit, which is why she behaves that way. It would be good if that were true, but Ryu thinks the reason might be completely different and wonders why the girl hates monsters so much. Meanwhile, Tia and Taiga, who are carrying out the task and simultaneously searching for the main character, do not understand at all what this strange request is. The boy is outraged. To create a weapon from Fenrir's fangs, the flame of the guardian is needed, but he does not know where to get all of this. However, these words were said by the king himself. He promised that he could make a legendary weapon for them if they bring all the necessary materials. But the tiger says he heard that the king of this country is a skilled blacksmith. The man next to him replies that it is not surprising, because good materials are needed to create real weapons. Then Tia asks to forget about this weapon, but the girl standing behind her asks, "Then why did they even come here?" Priestess Maria says that Tia is a hero and always under threat. That night, Gran joined her, who is also on the heroes team, as well as the priestess herself. He agrees with Maria and says that Tia needs good weapons because she is a hero. Then Tiger is the first to suggest going to the guild. Maybe there they can find information about the necessary materials. All team members agree with him. After some time, they came to the guild, but people looked at them very strangely. The knight notices this and cannot understand what is happening. As soon as they mention Fenrir and Garrett, the people around immediately start looking at them suspiciously. And when asked about these people, the locals seem to have lost their tongues. They remain silent and say nothing. She suggests that perhaps something bad has happened in this country. An unfamiliar man in a black cloak approaches the team. His face is hidden, and he asks if they really want to learn more about Fenrir and the legendary bird guard. The girl asks who he is. This guy pretends as if he is trading information, and he asks why the hero is interested in Fenrir and Garm. The girl explains that the king said, if they want to get the weapon, they must obtain Fenrir's fangs and Garm's flame. Grant approaches the informant and says that he definitely knows something, so he should tell what he knows. They are ready to pay any amount for this information. But the trader replies that he does not need money. Instead, he wants to hear a story. About a month ago, a man arrived in this country together with Fenrir and Garrett. He helped suppress the rebellion organized by the king's younger brother. In short, now he is the hero of his country. Tia does not understand what that is supposed to mean, because she considers herself the hero. The merchant continues the story and says that there are rumors that the hero hates monsters. But this guy is friends with Fenrir and Gerard, and that is nothing like what they say. He is afraid that their hero will just kill Fenrir and Gerard. If the merchant tells them more, then their hero can kill his own allies from their country, and then return to take revenge on them. Maria asks about this, and that is why no one wants to tell them the details. The merchant's answer was not very clear. Taiga asks Tia what happened and why she is silent. The girl stands with her back to them and does not answer. Then she turned around and said that she would definitely deal with this hero. The girl goes to the exit and thanks the information seller. Tiga tries to stop her, but the girl decided to destroy all the monsters. She leaves the guild and promises herself that as soon as everything is over, Tia will definitely find Ryu. Meanwhile, Ryu sits at the table with Lear and Karin. Tired, he lays his head on the table and is glad that it is finally over, and he can rest. Nothing was decided at the meeting. The Dragon Emperor and the Elder continued discussing battle strategy, so he had nothing to do there. Lear suggests taking a walk through the palace. Karin immediately agrees, and you do not object either. But the main character believes that it is not worth wandering around the palace just like that, and first someone needs to be warned. He opens the door to go out and sees a maid in front of him. Ryu is surprised because he has already seen this maid next to the Empress. She asks where he is going. The main character reacts to this question with surprise and says that he just wanted to walk around the palace a bit. The maid looks at him suspiciously, but she immediately changes her facial expression and asks them to follow her. Karin is very pleased. She likes such a turn of events. The heroes move forward, and the boy feels something strange, although he does not understand what exactly. Perhaps she was behind the door the whole time, eavesdropping on their conversation while they were in the room. After some time, the maid shows them where the dining hall, library, and training hall are, where the knights are currently training. Then she leads them to the Imperial Garden. All three are delighted by the beauty they see, and I cannot take my eyes off her. Karin says that the garden looks wonderful. Lear completely agrees with her. The main character also notes that it is really very beautiful here. The maid said that she is pleased that the guests like everything, because the princess also really likes it here. Ryu asks the maid which princess is being talked about, as he does not understand anything. The maid replies that the princess is here and she is very important for their country. The main character says that he understands everything, but he is only concerned about one question. Points to the pole from which a strand of hair is sticking out. He asks, who is hiding there? A little girl comes out of hiding and says that he still noticed her. All three are shocked because a child is standing in front of them. The girl approached the main character and just looked at him. He doesn't understand why she is standing like that and asks if she needs something. This question confuses the girl. She does not know how to respond. She tries to come up with an excuse, but nothing works. Then she notices his sword, and she gets a brilliant idea. The girl asks to give it to her. Ryu immediately replies that he cannot do that. Everyone around stands silently for a while. The girl is surprised that he refused. She cannot understand why he did that. The main character explains to her that these things are not toys for children at all. These words annoy her a lot, and she begins to impatiently tap her foot on the floor, repeating that she is no longer a child. Ryu looks around confusedly, not understanding what is happening. He casts an empty glance at the maid. She immediately understands everything, apologizes to him, and says she will call her parents now. Guy calmly replies that it is not a problem, and he will wait. Then he crouches in front of her and says that her parents are already coming. Karin asks if the girl is lost. At these words, the girl becomes even angrier, starts trembling, and says not to mock her. Then she declares that she will take the sword from him by force and lunges at the main hero with all her might. But he confidently dodges, not allowing the girl to get what she wants. He does not understand what she is doing, but the girl begins to scream and simultaneously demands that he give her his sword. The girl runs up to the boy to take the sword from him, but Ryu again does not allow her to do it and runs away from her. But the main character notices that the girl moves too quickly for her age group, although her actions are very easy to predict. She does not accept refusal and reaches out to the boy, demanding what she wants. But the boy again says he will not do it and asks Lyra and Karin to finally help him. But the girls are not going to interfere in their argument with her. Lear says that he is doing great anyway, and Karin just asks the main character to play with her the same way later. Ryu understands that there is no point in expecting help from them. Out of anger, the girl begins to tremble and scream at the top of her voice. How could he not listen to her? And this irritates her even more. The girl does not hold back her emotions and energetically waves her clenched fists. Ryu already sees sharp claws in front of him. He doesn't understand how it happened. The girl says that he once made her angry, and asks if he wants to say something in conclusion. She directs her hand to his face and says, "Take this." The boy sees the nails approaching his face, but suddenly he runs away from this place, and the princess, on the contrary, crashes into the column with all her might and hits her head. The boy steps away from the girl to a safe distance, and she continues to tremble with anger. Yet he begins to worry about her and asks if she is okay, because she is sitting on the ground and visibly shaking. But when the princess returns to him, the main character sees that she is crying and realizes that she is not laughing. The boy does not know how to act, because in fact he is the one to blame for her being upset. The main character sits next to her, and the girl sitting on the floor crying asks why she cannot defeat him. since she is much stronger than him. The boy asks her to calm down. He says that a doctor needs to be called. Behind, a voice is heard apologizing for the delay. It was May. She brought the Empress. They are walking straight to them. The man does not believe that the Empress is really here. He quickly gets up from the floor and approaches her, now, and asks what she forgot here, since the maid said she would call her parents. But still, the Empress bows her head before him, apologizing for her daughter's bad behavior. Here, it seems the man's whole life is falling apart, and he cannot understand how it happened that this is her daughter. The Empress raises her head and sadly says that he understood everything correctly. Yes, this is indeed her daughter. And the maid adds that her granddaughter is there too. The main heroine cannot accept this. How can she be her granddaughter? And then he asks the maid why she did not stop the princess immediately when she started behaving badly. But the woman, looking away, replies that she simply does not know how to get along with children. Here in Ryus, the brain completely boiled. He is trying to understand. If the girl's mother is the Empress, then who is her father? And here he finally realizes that the girl sitting on the floor in front of him is actually the heir to the throne. Riv still cannot believe that the girl who tried to steal his sword turned out to be a princess of the Dragon Empire. An elder approaches him and says that he always ends up at the center of events. Ryu is surprised by his appearance, and the elder greets the maid, calling her Tiamat. The woman responds by saying she is also glad to see him. The head of the Fenrir clan does not understand what is happening here. When the elder was informed of the situation, he realized that the girl wanted to steal Ryu's sword. But the girl herself defends herself and says that it is not her fault, but Ryu constantly avoided her attacks. And if he had stayed in place, she definitely would have defeated him. Her grandmother can no longer endure such shame and asks the girl to calm down. And then he says that she lost and asks to accept it already, because it seems they will have to intensify daily training. The maid bows at a 90-degree angle, constantly apologizing to the main character. Ryu waves it off and says it's okay, and he shouldn't have worried so much, but Tiamat still has one request for him. She asks if he could help her with the princess's training. At the same time, she places her hand on the princess's head. This request shocks the boy. He cannot believe what he has heard. He asks if it is possible to find someone stronger, but the maid explains that then the princess will be afraid to come. When she is next to him, she feels calmer. The girl's parents also wanted to talk to him about this. After all, she is the one who will inherit the throne, so they want her to be ready for it. They are asking him very much to help. Ryu says he agrees, but worries that he will be a bad teacher. At that moment, an elder approaches him, places a hand on his shoulder, and says to agree because even dragons bowed their heads before him, and Ryu himself still needs training. Ryu agrees to help the girl train after some time, so he asks everyone to raise their heads. The princess's grandmother thanks him, but Ryu is not finished yet and says he has one request in return. He placed his hand on his chest and said that in return he wants Tiamat to teach him something. The woman does not understand why he needs this training, but the main character explains that he wants to better prepare for the fight, and her lessons will be very useful for him. The maid smiles sweetly and says she is not at all against such activities. The boy is infinitely happy and sincerely thanks her. Then he turns to Karin and wants to tell her that they can rest now, but the girl interrupts him, not letting him finish, and says that she is not satisfied with that, and she will train too. Ryu does not understand why she is doing this, as it could be dangerous, but Karin replies that she wants to help her father. She also does not want to stay far away forever. The main character wants to calm her down. But then the elder joins the conversation and says that he will take care of preparing the security himself. Karin cannot believe it and asks again if it is really so. And Ryu asks if everything will be fine. The elder only says that if the girl asks so, how can he refuse her? She wants to become stronger, and if so, he will gladly help her with this. After this, the head of the Fenrir family approaches Tiamat and begins to offer her something, quietly whispering in her ear. Tiamat's eyes immediately narrow. She smiles at his proposal and says that then they should start tomorrow. And the elder is still begging not to be killed. The one standing nearby does not understand what is happening, but definitely knows. It somehow concerns him too. The next morning, the maid sent the main character flying with one blow. He falls to his knees. The woman tells him to get up because they are not finished yet. Ryu turns at the maid's voice and realizes that she is actually a demon. But the boy also remembers that the elder is currently studying with Karin, and already imagines the girl lying on the floor. Tiamat continues to reproach him, saying that he is somewhat successful, but there is too much unnecessary movement in his actions. She asks him to conserve his energy because he gets tired very quickly. Meanwhile, she gives him a light lesson, demonstrating it with her hand. The maid adds that with such abilities he cannot cope with the dragon. The boy flies back from the blow, But still he stays on his feet, although it is very difficult for him. He remembers that Corinne and Lear are also trying their best, and therefore he cannot give up on them. He firmly decided not to deviate from his goal and to become stronger. But soon the maid sent him flying again, and after some time, the woman says that today is enough. The princess and the main character are glad that it is finally over. They both tremble and can barely stand on their feet. But Tiamat is not finished yet. She orders them to run another 100 laps around the field. Both are surprised that the training is not over yet. After some time, you and the princess enter the dining room. You have no strength left for anything. You are very tired after training. And the maid standing behind Lyra and Karen says that from today she will monitor their diet. She added that she does not accept any objections and will return soon. It is noticeable to Karina and Lyra that the boys look bad. They are asked if they are okay, but neither the main character nor the princess know what to answer them. They look at each other, and Ryu says that even he finds it hard to endure, while the girl admits that the man surprised her with his endurance. In a few days, princess, he attacks the boy who is still evading, and then the girl makes an unsuccessful move, and Ray immediately grabs her by the hand, not letting her move, and then presses her to the floor so she cannot escape. The main character admits that he is tired, while the princess at this time says that she can continue. Lear and Karen watch the training from the side. The girl's grandmother tells her that she moves too simply. Moreover, before attacking, it is worth carefully considering each of your moves. Now it's time for a rematch, and the guy is listening to remarks from the maid. She says he moves well, but reacts too slowly. However, maybe it will still work with the princess. But if the enemy moves much faster, it will create problems for him. Therefore, it is always necessary to carefully monitor the enemy's actions. Ryu only awkwardly scratched his head and reluctantly said that if she insists so strongly, he has no other choice. But Tiamat does not let him finish and assures him that everything is actually very simple. He needs to sense the opponent's mana. Where is it heading? When to attack and when to retreat. Thanks to this skill, he will better understand the situation in battle. By reading the enemy's mana, you will be able to predict where to expect the attack from. But the boy still did not understand anything, even after the maid's explanations. She sighs heavily and says that it is indeed difficult to explain with words. Then she asks if he felt any pressure when facing a strong opponent. The boy recalls their first meeting with the king and how he felt that ominous aura back then. The woman understands that the boy remembered that feeling and says that it is good because he already has an idea. When he has learned the lesson, she suggests reinforcing the material and at the same time unbuttons her shirt. The boy does not understand what she wants to do and tries to cover her eyes with his hands so she does not see anything unnecessary. The main character asks her to stop doing this. After that, he notices that something or someone has blocked the sun for him. He takes his hands away from his face and sees a huge dragon in front of him, which is also blocking the sun. The princess's grandmother turned into a dragon and told him that from now on he would fight her only in that form. He cannot believe what he heard. The woman asks the boy to defeat her and says that he can use any weapon. Here, Ryu learns that Tiamat will also participate in the battle. The girl approaches him closer and says that he can attack her only after he manages to dodge her grandmother's attacks. The boy, completely shocked, asks if that is not too cruel. But Tamed replies to him that he is to blame for his problems because he chose her as his mentor himself. And the elder tells him that real learning begins right now, so he needs to prepare. The maid is wagging her tail and says that they are starting. The dragon's tail strike throws him back several meters. He did not expect the dragon to attack so quickly at all. A woman in the form of a dragon asks, "What happened?" and reminds that the dark dragon's attacks will become much stronger. But the main hero, drawing a sword from under his cloak, replies that he knows everything. But suddenly a girl runs out from behind and asks not to forget about her. The boy did not expect this, so he steps aside, and the princess in turn tries to attack the grandmother. She circles around the dragon, trying to confuse it, and Ryu stands aside, not knowing what to do, and he has no choice but to dodge their blows. After all, if he tries to approach, he will immediately be attacked by the girl and the grandmother. At that moment, Tiamat noticed that Ryu was lost in thought and standing still. She began shouting at him that during battle, one must not be distracted. She also asked if he had forgotten what they were talking about, and reminded him that he needed to feel the mana. These words bring this boy to his senses, and the maid in turn makes sure that the field is completely covered with dust, and tells him that defeating the opponent relying only on sight will not work. After some time, the boy has almost no strength left. He is breathing heavily and trying to stay on his feet to avoid falling. He is focusing all his strength on his opponent. The dragoness looks at him and wonders if this is really his limit. She admits that for a human, the boy showed a good result. She recalls a recent conversation with Fenrir. The master of the Fenrir family told the maid that perhaps Ro is the very person needed. Currently, the woman sees nothing special in the main character. She thinks maybe the elder was mistaken with his proposal. But suddenly, the boy's aura begins to change. Like his face, the elder and the dragon now feel power in him and notice that something has clearly happened to the hero. The head of the Fenrir family only smiles contentedly, while the maid decides that she needs to try to do something. She decides to provoke Ryu by asking if that is all he is capable of. The joyful princess boldly launches an attack, realizing that this is her wonderful chance. But Tiamat does not stop, and asks the main hero if she should just kill him. The girl stops in surprise because she does not understand what her grandmother means. But the dragon continues and says that in his current state, the boy will still die at the hands of the dark dragon. She can kill him without unnecessary suffering. Tiamat tilted her head and leaned over the boy, towering above him. The maid who transformed into a dragon tells the main character that it is over for him. He stands next to her below. The princess, keeping away from the boy, asks her grandmother to stop. And Ryu, in turn, does not understand why everything turned out this way, as he really wanted to catch up with his friends, but the main character cannot believe that all his efforts were in vain. Someone puts a hand on his shoulder, and his behavior changes instantly. He says he is not going to accept this and will fight to the end, because he will not give up so easily. The maid senses all his determination and sharply strikes him, raising even more dust. Now nothing is visible. The blow raises a wind that almost knocks the princess off her feet. The boy notices that the dragon's leg was only a few centimeters away from him, and then everything becomes clear to him. Although it lasted only a moment, thanks to Manner he was able to see where the strike was coming from, because beyond his arm nothing is visible through the dust. This is what helped him dodge and survive. He thinks that maybe now he can feel the opponent's mana. The maid became human again and congratulated the main character on finally being able to feel the opponent's mana. She is curious about how he likes the way the woman plays her role, and yet, she hopes that the main character did not believe that she was really going to kill him. The boy sighs with relief and says that everything was exactly like that. But Tiamat adds that it cannot be called just a game. Hearing this, the boy simply freezes in surprise. And the maid says that despite everything, the main character did an excellent job with the challenge, and asks to accept her congratulations. The boy blushes after these words, and thanks the princess's grandmother. And the princess meanwhile stands a little aside, waving her hands and emotionally explaining why she herself did not know anything about it. And she, along with everyone, will continue training until she also passes the test. Grandfather tells his granddaughter not to be so selfish and to stop whining. But then the main character interrupts their conversation and asks if the princess also failed the test. Both the grandmother and the granddaughter turned to him and looked surprised, because they did not understand what he said and waited for him to explain. The boy is pointing at the button of his vest, which is about to fall off. He says that the girl still offended him, and asks if it is true that her task was precisely to seduce him. The maid, holding her head with her hand, replies that formally it was indeed so. But the woman tells her that the princess has already passed. The girl cannot believe her ears, and her eyes begin to shine with joy. She is happy with her small victory, and the main character, seeing her success, pats her on the head and says that the princess is great. The girl is very pleased to hear praise from Ryu. She laughs cheerfully and says that, of course, she managed, because he would have been able to too. Lear and Karen stood a little aside, watching the fight closely, and said it was something incredible. To celebrate this event, they suggested everyone eat together. The main character, seeing the girls, joyfully calls out their names. Tiamat stands a little apart and calmly watches them, listening to their conversation with pleasure. And late at night, the elder and Tiamat sit together and drink. The head of the Fenrir family never imagined that they would ever sit at the table together again. Their faces are barely visible. The room is dimly lit, adding coziness. He recalls past times when they couldn't even have a peaceful minute to talk, and the maid only laughs and says that at least they were never bored. The elder asks the woman how her training with the main character is going. The matchstick simply nods and says that everything is fine. Moreover, Ryu is already making good progress. The elder starts laughing with pride for the boy, then adds that he never expected the matchstick would ever be able to acquire a husband for himself. But the woman replies that she never even thought of teaching anyone. The head of the Fenrir family only adds, "The time will come when the main hero will defeat them too." The woman thinks for a moment and says that anything is possible in life, but she is still glad that the little lady follows the example of Ryu's, and she still wonders if she can give the princess to Mr. Ryu. The elder even gasped at such words. This is incredible news. He begins to prepare coffee. Then he asks Tiamat if she has been drinking, or if she is feeling unwell. He reminds her that passing off a dragon princess as a human is not a wise decision at all, and it simply cannot be. The woman just smiles and says that although it is not easy, it is still possible. After all, if the main character becomes stronger than the others, he will definitely be noticed. But besides this, as he said, Mr. Ryu is indeed the right person. The older man sighs heavily, agrees with the woman, and adds that a man he knows is involved in this. The head of the Fenrir family frowns. After that, he says that an ordinary person cannot have such strength, but he still wonders why Ryu became that person. After all, many have already tried to obtain his power through a contract, but they all died a terrible death. Tiamat also becomes serious and says that the decision still remains with him, and no one can stop him. And if he finds out about the main character, there will be even more problems. After all, Ryu has gained a power that no one has ever managed to master. The elder asks if anyone else knows about this. The woman replies that hardly anyone does, as the man disappeared many years ago. Then she wonders how the elder finally managed to find him. The head of the Fenrir family says he will definitely tell her everything as soon as the time comes, because Ryu has a hidden power that no one knows about. The main character continues training with Miss Tiamat. They arrange a duel. The boy lunges at the woman, shouting for her to take his strike, and throws the maid backward, but she still manages to stay on her feet. After the battle, Tiamat says that Mr. Ryu has become much stronger. He asks the woman if this is really true. She agrees and says that his skills have indeed improved. She is amazed at how quickly he is developing. The boy joyfully exclaims in surprise and asks again if it is true. He is very proud of himself and understands that he is already getting results from persistent training. Maybe now he will be able to harm the dark dragon. Tiamat says that since the boy's results have improved, there will be no training tomorrow. The girl's face shows joy, but the boy is clearly upset. He does not understand why the training was cancelled and asks the teacher for the reason. She explains to him that he trains every day, and his body is already very tired, so rest now will benefit him more than another workout. Moreover, rest is also an important part of the training process. She tells the elder about this and asks why he does not spend time with Lear and Corinna. Meanwhile, the girl arranges a duel, watched by the head of the Fenrir clan, standing slightly aside. The main character likes this idea and agrees with it. He remembers that they never got to walk around the city and thinks they should see interesting places. The next morning, Mr. Ryu's bedroom. He is sleeping peacefully in bed, but suddenly feels that someone is in the room. In a dream, the main character hears someone calling his name and asking him to wake up. He does not understand who it could be. Reluctantly, but still, he opens his eyes to see this person. When Ryu fully opened his eyes, he saw Liar in front of him, who was asking him to wake up. He was surprised that the girl had come herself to wake him, and Lear does not answer his question, but only urges him, saying that Karen is already waiting for them and asks to dress faster. He promised the girls that he would hang out with them today. After some time in the main shopping area, everyone is busy with their own affairs, no one is in a hurry, and they work calmly. Our heroes are there too. Czar. He asks the girls where they would like to go. Karen thinks for a moment, and Lear replies that she does not know the city, so she cannot suggest anything. The main character recalls that it was then Karen was looking at ribbons, so he suggests going to that store. The girl can't believe her ears and asks in surprise if it's true. And Lear adds that it's a great idea. Ryu turns around and asks the other if he agrees with his proposal. After that, he adds the address, Princess. The little lady stands contentedly beside the boys. She confidently places her hands on her hips and smiles with a look of pride. The girl replies that, of course, she agrees. Moreover, they do not know the city at all, so she will show them everything, and in the end, they will even thank her for it. And Ryu didn't even think that he would go for a walk with the princess. He remembered how he had previously talked with Tiamat during training. The boy froze in surprise and asked the woman again if she was really asking him to take the princess with him. The girl's grandmother, with a serious face, replies that he understood everything correctly and explains that she was invited to the meeting. There is no one to look after the princess, so she asks him to do it. After this, the main character asks about the other servants, but the woman replies that, unfortunately, they cannot handle the princess's fiery temper. She encourages him, saying that everything will be fine. It is an exciting moment. Even if Miss Tiamat said so, he would still rush into trouble if something happened to the girl. And to inspire everyone, the princess asks them to follow her. They enter the jewelry store at this time. The seller greets them warmly. There is no one else in the store besides them. The man greeted them and asked if they needed a hint or help choosing jewelry. The girl replied that her friends want to buy jewelry, so she brought them here. Karen's eyes shine with happiness as she looks at all these jewels and admires them. Lear also cannot take his eyes off and marvels at how many decorations are in the display case. Lear and Karen was happily looking at the jewelry. Suddenly you noticed that the princess was looking at the girls. Ryu suddenly asked the girl if she wanted to look at the bright decorations together. The princess flinched in surprise. She turned away and said in a proud tone that she was a princess and had everything. Ryu smiled and added that girls like jewelry. The princess silently looked at the young man, then asked if she could ask him something. Ryu was surprised but said nothing. Then the princess seriously asks the young man why he wants to become stronger. Ryu is surprised but cannot answer anything. He says that the girl asked him about it so suddenly. The princess ordered him to simply answer her question. The boy scratches his cheek and admits that he wanted to be on the same level as his friends. He smiles awkwardly. He continues and says that they both got rare combat professions. But he was less lucky. He stayed behind them, so he wanted to become stronger. The princess asks if this means that the young man seeks power because his affairs are not going very well, just like hers. Suddenly, Ryu shifts the conversation to the mentor. The princess asks in surprise what it all means and if the reason is really only the mentor. She screams and does not believe that she lost to an ordinary mentor. Ryu responds by shouting that he trained a lot. He says that he was able to gain power only thanks to the leader. If he had not met Lear, he would have remained a simple shepherd and would not have seen other countries. The princess asks about these other countries in surprise. She began asking Ryu where he had been and what kind of people were there, whether it was interesting to relax there. Ryu admitted that he had hardly traveled and had been to only one country. Ryu said that this girl is a princess. He asks if she does not have to travel a lot. The princess responded with a refusal. She said that she had never left the empire. Ryu was very surprised. The princess clenched her dress in her hands and said that, being a princess, she cannot just take off and leave the country and feels here as if in a cage. Ryu looked at the girl and said that he understood her. The princess got angry and asked the young man what exactly he meant. She screamed and asked how to even understand this, and whether that guy was also from the royal family. She inquired if he really thought she was so simple and straightforward. Ryu smiled gently and said that he was just like the princess. He never left his village and learned everything from his friends. They envied him because they could travel wherever they wanted, and when they brought souvenirs, it fueled his envy even more. He asked the stunned princess if she really feels the same. The princess was surprised. Suddenly she screamed and said that it is exactly so. Parents and grandmother always take care of the princess. But even care has its limits, and she really wants to see the world. She dreams of visiting every country. The girl says she dreams of finding a place where no one has been yet, and to be praised for it. She wants to meet different people and try new food. She also remembers one thing, and adds a little confusedly, that it is also possible to find friends. Of course, she can handle everything on her own, but it is not that easy. Ryu thought that she just wanted to be friends with them. Suddenly, Ryu calls Karina and asks her to look at her new ribbons that they just picked out. Yu asked the girl if she had already chosen the ribbons. He said they suit her very well. Corinne asked the boy if they really look cute. Then she looked at the princess and asked what she had been talking about with Ryu. The girl flinched at the unexpected question. The princess turned away and timidly said that there was nothing special. Ryu smiled and said that the princess really wants to be friends with them. The girl was very confused and began to panic. The girl screamed and asked the boy who allowed him to say such a thing. Corin was very surprised to hear this. Corin asked with surprise, "Are they not friends yet?" The princess was very surprised. The princess asked Corinne what she was even talking about. Corinne thought for a moment and said, "Well, how to explain it? They eat together and train together." She rejoiced and asked if that meant they were already friends. The princess shouted irritably and said that was not the case at all. Karen says that she, her dad, and sister are a family, but she would be happy to find new friends. She asked the princess if she wants to be friends with her. The princess became very sad. The princess was so surprised by this question that she even recoiled from the girl. She tried to explain everything to her. At that moment, Ryu and Lior exchanged glances and smiled. Ryu said that she would also be happy to be friends. Lior sighed quietly and admitted that she also did not have many friends. Corinne always had a calm face, but the princess was a little nervous. Then the princess screamed and said that she agreed to be friends with them, and also allowed them to address her simply by her name. Karen was very happy, and said that then they need to choose a ribbon for Eureka as well. The princess was surprised, asked about the ribbon, and said that she already has a ribbon. Corinne smiled, took the girl by the hand, and told Okari to go with them. This would be proof of their friendship. She asked the girl, who was surprised, if friends really act that way. Oko was very surprised and pressed her lips tightly. Oscar responded with enthusiasm. At that moment, Ryu and Lear were standing nearby. Lear smiled and remarked that they seemed to be having a lot of fun. Ryu said it was good that they became friends so quickly. Suddenly, Ryu asked Lear why she hadn't bought anything. After all, they have money from selling materials, so she shouldn't be ashamed. He shows her a necklace with a beautiful pendant and asks if she likes it. Lyra replies that these chains remind her of a collar. She does not like it. But the girl says sadly that besides, she will interfere with her in battle. The young man offers to treat the girl. Suddenly, Ryu turns away and looks to the side in surprise. He puts a scarf on the lyre and asks, "How do you like this scarf?" The girl asks in surprise if it is really a scarf. Ryu says that if wearing it around the neck is uncomfortable, it can be tied on the arm. Moreover, this scarf looks good with Lear's black hair. Ryu says that if the girl doesn't like it, they can watch something else. Lear replies that everything is fine. Suddenly, Lear smiles and sincerely thanks Ryu with all his heart. After some time, a group of boys leaves the store, and the seller thanks them for their purchase. The girls ask Ray where they will go next, and Lyre wonders if there are any other popular stores. The princess suggests they follow her. Then she smiles and says she is sure they will like it. Suddenly, the princess stops. Ryu asks the girl what happened. The princess is surprised. She raises her eyes to the sky and sees a huge dragon there. The dragon smiles and looks directly at the Reyes group. Suddenly, a maid appears before Ryu. Ryu recognizes her as Lady Tiamat and asks what happened. Tiamat looks at them seriously and says they have problems. Lady Tiamat says that the seal in the cave of the Dragon of Darkness has become too weak. It looks like he will break free earlier than expected. You got scared and asked what that means. Tiamat said that according to preliminary forecasts, a breakthrough will happen today, so it is necessary to prepare well. Ryu was very surprised and upset, then asked if it will really happen today. Then silence fell, and someone asked if it was really starting already. You frowned and thought that everything was happening too abruptly, but there was no other way out. He addresses Ms. Tiamat and asks if he can see the seal. The girl agrees and says that this is exactly why she was looking for them. She suggests returning to the castle. From there, they will go to the cave together. At that moment, in the large dark cave, a wall cracked. The tail of a monster was visible as it quickly slipped across the stone floor. But the monster smiled and said that it would soon be free. A bright fire burned in its eyes. The monster was glad that very soon it would fulfill its desires. The great dragon flew across the clear, cloudless sky. Lear said that it seemed the long-awaited moment had finally come. Korin immediately nodded seriously and agreed. Ryu tensed up strongly. He turned to Lady Tiamat and asked if the girl had already fought the dark dragon. Tiamat was very surprised. Miss Tiamat said that she was still young then and could not fight, but her relatives could, and he is very strong. Do you know that even for Tiamat, this dark dragon is a very dangerous opponent? He himself is not sure if he can handle him. At that moment, Ryu tensed, and Tiamat noticed it. Lady Tiamat told Ryu not to burden his mind with unnecessary thoughts. Maybe he is a person, but not weak at all. During this time, he has achieved a lot. She tells the young man, "If you cannot believe in yourself, then believe me." Tiamat confidently told the young man to believe in himself, for he is strong. Ryu was very surprised, but then confidently agreed. At that moment, the princess grabbed his head and said she would try too. She does not want to take all the glory for herself. Ryu replied that he does not need that glory at all. After some time, they come to a large dark cave. Deep inside, many mages have gathered, who are casting spells together and creating a magical seal. Suddenly a man appeared and asked the wizards how they were doing. The wizard addressed him and called him the Emperor. Ryu asked Lady Tiamat who these people were. The girl replied that they were sorcerers of their empire. They maintained the seal with their magic to make it last longer. Suddenly the man shouted that the seal would no longer hold. Another mage said that the dragon would wake up in just a few minutes. The emperor approached the sorcerers and said that he understood everything. The sorcerers replied that now everything depended on them. Suddenly, a strange black liquid began to flow between the stones. In the next moment, the seal crumbled. Everyone was shocked and surprised. Even the emperor could not contain his emotions. The mages also did not expect this and were stunned by the destroyed seal. The emperor immediately ordered everyone to urgently flee because the dragon was about to break free. Suddenly, the entire cave began to shake violently. A strange liquid began to leak more and more strongly from the crack. Suddenly, someone said that they had been waiting for this day for a long time. Lear, Karin, and Ryu were very surprised. At that very moment, a huge three-headed dragon appeared before them, its entire skin covered in strange patterns. He looked at the people and said that among them there are dragonites and Fenrirs. The dragon also noticed that there was a human among them. He asked if this young man was truly a hero. Ryu was surprised and asked what it meant, then wanted to explain that he was not a hero. At that moment, the emperor ordered his people to prepare for battle and be alert. The dragon said that they are all like annoying insects to him. None of them interest him. Then he casts a spell, and then he orders everyone to disperse. Suddenly, some group appears with magical seals. The men shouted and asked what it was. They were already about to run away. But suddenly, a group of dragonites in Fenrir disappeared. Ryu was very surprised that they all disappeared. The princess and Lear immediately began calling for their father and mother, and then Lear turned to the dragon and asked where it had sent them. The monster said that she just transferred them to another dimension. She wants to fight them. And all this is only because they are his team. He laughs and asks them to make him laugh again. At that moment, a huge wolf was trying to break the stone wall, but the hole in the wall appeared very slowly. The man said he could not go any further. Grandma Lear noted that this place was created by dragon magic. The girl replied that it was very strong magic. The emperor said that they needed to hurry, because Lear was there alone. The man told the wolf not to rush. They had trained a lot specifically for this day and were confident they would manage. Now we need to think about how to get out of here. Suddenly, a black snake crawled across the ground. The girl with blonde hair shouted to the man to be more careful. Suddenly the man dodges, and the snake misses. He looks down and sees many dark snakes crawling around. The man calls these snakes creatures of darkness. They found themselves surrounded and realized it couldn't get any worse. They understood that this dark dragon did not waste a single minute. At that moment, a huge black dragon was gathering magical energy from its seal. He was casting a spell. Suddenly, the man spat out a lot of dark liquid. The young man deftly dodged. The dragon was surprised and said that the boy dodged again. He ordered him to stop running and attack. Ryu replied to the dragon that there was no need to ask twice. He rushed at the dragon and struck it. Ryu was very surprised because the dragon did not even try to dodge. Then the boy realized that the monster had deliberately exposed itself to the blow at that very moment. Suddenly, a strange liquid appeared behind the young man. Lady Tiamat shouted to Ryu to be careful because the enemy can create dark creatures from blood. Suddenly, a black snake appeared. Miss Tiamat warned Ryu not to attack thoughtlessly, otherwise it could harm him. Because you cut through the creature of darkness. The serpent. And then, clicking his tongue, he said that he understood what Miss Tiamat meant. Tiamat thought that the dark dragon had become much stronger than before, and now even a small scratch on his arm could create creatures of darkness. If he is not killed with one blow, everything will be very bad. They will simply be overwhelmed by these creatures, and everyone will die. Miss Tiamat looked carefully at the young man, and thought that they really needed his strength right now. The next moment, the dragon gathered a magical attack and asked, "How do you like that?" He casts a very powerful spell. Ryu swung his sword towards him and wanted to say that they were still together, but he didn't manage to finish speaking. A large number of magical seals suddenly appeared around the dark dragon. Ryu, Oleg, Karin, and Lear were very surprised and frightened. Several sea lions suddenly rushed at the Ryu's group, launching a powerful attack. The latter said in surprise that they would in no way be able to avoid such an attack. He had just woken up. Where did he get so much strength from? The dragon asked the people what had happened, and whether they had come to kill him. But Ryu understood. If they do nothing, they will perish, and if they attack, they will create even more dark creatures. He does not know what to do. Suddenly, Miss Tiamat turned to Ryu. She called out to the boy not to rush. She asked him to carefully consider his plan. She said he must do everything he can. Mrs. Tiamat thought about it. She believes that although Ryu and others have become stronger, they still lack combat experience. She hopes that the Emperor and his team will manage to return on time. By that time, she must protect them. Suddenly, Princess Oka appears and says that the shadows can be destroyed with one strike. She smiles, places her hand on her heart, and asks everyone to give it to her. The girl who transforms into a dragon says she will just kill him before he can use the spell. Suddenly, Mrs. Tiamat loudly shouted to Ozik to wait. Suddenly, Oluka turns into a dragon. Ryu sees a tiny, very cute little dragon in front of him and realizes that this is Oluka's dragon form. Oka rushed straight at the dragon, shouting that it was the end for him. At that moment, Lady Tiamat also transformed into a dragon. Suddenly, the dark dragon smiled and said it was ridiculous. He cast a magic spell, and the oaks froze in the air. She realized that the huge black dragon was using silent magic. Ryu got scared and shouted the name Shoutsoki. Suddenly, a powerful explosion sounded. The eye tries to wipe the dust from the eyes, but suddenly it opens them wide and freezes. She sees the body of Tiamat before her. The girl has fainted and shows no signs of life. Ryu loudly shouts the name Tiamat, and Uka begins to tremble with fear. The dark dragon asks if Tiamat really sacrificed herself for others, and wonders why anyone would do such a foolish thing. He pushed Tiamat away with his tail and told her to get lost. Suddenly, Oneka called her grandmother and flew to her. Tiamat thought that she could not move, and it was like some kind of paralysis magic. She understands that she needs to get up immediately. The dark dragon asks if they really consider themselves heroes. He says the previous hero was much better than them. He laughs and challenges everyone to make him laugh. Lear, Korin, and Ryu are very tense. They do not know what to do next. A huge black snake swiftly lunges directly at the giant wolf, but it pins her to the ground and crushes her. He told the other wolves that they are all advancing on them, and they cannot see the end. But the man thinks that everything is bad. They are late. You and the guys need to hurry. He understands that something needs to be quickly thought up before it becomes too late. He asks Ryu and others to hold on as long as possible. At that moment, a huge black dragon praised his enemies and ordered them to attack him. Oko tried to bring her grandmother to consciousness. She begged her not to give up. The girl kept calling her grandmother. At that moment, the dark dragon said that maybe if the obstacles are removed, you will become more serious again. The main character instantly called out to Ahak and Tiamat by name. The princess turned around and saw a magical attack flying towards them. Oha nestled against Tiamat and tightly closed her eyes. A loud explosion sounded. After a while, Oha opened her eyes and saw Ryu and Lefiar among the dust. Ryu is holding a knife in front of him and is very tense. Oka looked at the boy and girl fearfully. She wanted to say something, but Ryu shouted and asked the girl to calm down. Ryu turned to Osaka and asked if she remembered why she came here. Osaka admitted that it was because of her grandmother suffered. Ryu continued and said that if the girl dies, Tiamat will cry because all her attempts to protect her were in vain. Ryu confidently stated that now all hope was only on them, and Tiamat defended them with all her might. Odiko was very surprised. Ryo smiled and suggested to the girl to fight together. He called Olinka again. The girl was surprised. The next moment Tiamat woke up and wanted to say something, but Oka assured grandmother that she would no longer do anything rash and there was no need to worry. Oka joined Lear, Karin, and Ryu, and said that now they would all fight together. Everyone was very serious. The dark dragon laughed and said that their futile attempts had greatly amused him. He ordered them to show everything they were capable of. Then he extends his hand, on which many magical seals are visible. The Ryu's group heads straight towards the dark dragon. You jumped from side to side, dodging the monster's attacks. Korin stood next to the dragon. The girl prepared to strike and directed a powerful stream of her energy straight at the dragon. But the dark dragon activated the magical seal again, smiled slyly, and asked if the girl would really dare to attack him with fire. He snapped his fingers and said he would get rid of her first. The dragon begins to cast a spell. Suddenly, a magical seal appears right under the girl, from which huge dark tentacles burst out. The girl immediately noticed them. Ryu also saw this and shouted to Karin to be careful. The girl tried to dodge and flew in the other direction, but the dark tentacles still reached for her. But one of the tentacles tried to grab Karin by the leg, and Lyre cut it off with her paw. She saved Karin from death. Lear landed and asked Korin if she was all right. Korin happily agreed, and thanked her sister for the rescue. Then the black dragon smiled and said that now he would attack himself. At that moment, Ryu and Oduka rushed straight at the monster. Okusha shouted that she would not let the dragon do it. In the next moment, the dark dragon created a magical seal in front of him, and easily deflected the attack of Ryu and Oki. The dark dragon said it was a futile strike. He made a wide swing, and Oveka and Ryu tried to dodge. Ryu and Ogoka jumped aside and became serious. Ryu did not know what to do next. He was very nervous. Ryu thought that Tiamat warned him. Under no circumstances should he fall under his spell. This monster cannot be taken down with simple strikes, and creatures of darkness emerge from his wounds. He does not understand how they will manage to defeat such a monster. At this moment, the dark dragon was distracted by Karin and Lear, and Orenka returned before the battle. Ryu recalls his training with TMI and carefully watches Lear's fight with the dark dragon. He understands that the dragon definitely has some weak spot. At that moment, the black dragon smiled, and a cloud of dust swirled around him. Ryu suddenly realized something important, and began to look carefully at the dragon. It occurred to him, what if, by using magical reading, something would work out? Suddenly, the ornament on the tail of the black dragon lit up. Ryu was very scared. He carefully watched as the dragon activated the magical seals. A magical seal appears on the ground, but Lear manages to dodge. Oka also engages in battle with him. You thought it was impossible. But if it's true, there is no choice. He takes the pen and mentally addresses Lear and Korin. He also says that he has questions for them. He tells them his plan. Lear and Karin are very surprised and ask what the young man is talking about. Lear says that if they fail, It will be very dangerous, and asks the young man if he understands the risk. Ryu says he is confident that together they can handle everything. Even if something happens, he believes they will be able to protect the boy. Lear and Karen were very surprised. Ryu continued and said that he trusts them, so he wants to try to implement this plan. Then Lear clenches his teeth, says he understood, and suggests taking action. Karen replies that she will try as well. Oka says that she will also try. Suddenly Ryu interrupts her and asks Okuda to listen to him. Then the dragon asks if they have already decided to do something. He wonders if they are really sure that he will allow them to do it. The dragon activates a magical seal and says that everything is not as they think. After that, he casts a spell. Suddenly Lear jumps up and finds himself right next to the black dragon. The dragon decided that Lear had managed to break the spell. He smiles and says that it is some very fast dog, but in the air it cannot dodge at all. He activates the magic seal and directs it straight at the liars. Suddenly, a magical stream appears around the dark dragon, completely enveloping it. The dragon was surprised and asked if they really limited themselves to only the guardian's fire. He looked around, was impressed, then smiled and said they were fools and only doing him a favor. He raises his head and suddenly sees Oroka appear literally out of thin air and rush straight towards the dark dragon. Oka flies headfirst directly into the body of the black dragon. He staggers and cannot understand why the fire with gears did not work. He looks at Odika and thinks that only bones should have remained of her. Suddenly, he notices a feather in her mouth that was protecting her. Once Ryu asked Oseki for help, and Astrid took Karen's pen. Thanks to this pen, Oseka does not get damaged by fire. The feather protects him, so Oseka has nothing to worry about. Ryu then told Ugutsu that the dark dragon's magic is very strong, but you just need to prevent the dragon from using it. He also told where he gets his magic from. The dark dragon, tapping on the ground, said that it is very interesting. Then he asked if they really decided to attack him again. The dark dragon smiles and says he will send her to his grandmother. Then the monster activates a magical seal. Oka smiles in response and says the real fool here is the dark dragon himself. At that very moment, the black dragon feels a sharp pain. He turns away and sees that his tails are cut off. At that moment, Lear cut off the tail of the dark dragon with his sharp claws. Ryu explained that the source of the dark dragon's magic is located in the tail. The dark dragon realized that this group had planned everything from the very beginning. The dragon laughed and said that everything was clear to them. He asked if they really thought they could take away his magic. Suddenly the cut tail begins to change, and a multitude of dark snakes burst out of it. The dark dragon directs them and says that now his creatures will deal with them themselves. He laughed and said that we need to move forward. Then he ordered Ryu and his team to cheer him up even more. He orders them to fight even harder, at the limit of their strength. This is exactly what he was aiming for. Suddenly the black dragon is surprised and looks around. He notices that something strange is happening because one of them is missing. Suddenly he remembers Ryu and realizes that the hero is not nearby right now. He looks at Lara, who attacks the black dragon. But the dragon dodges. The dragon suspects that Ryu is up to something. He shouts and demands the hero to appear before him. But in a moment, Ryu appears right behind the liar and says that he is here. Ryu smiles, and his sword begins to glow. The black dragon looks at the shining sword and realizes that magic is embedded in it. All this time he has been accumulating magical power. The dark dragon smiles and says that this is exactly what he has been searching for so long. He was looking for a true hero right now. Ryushi shouts, threatens the dark dragon, and launches an attack. When the young man's sword touches the dragon's body, a powerful explosion occurs. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind almost knocks Karen and Lyra off their feet. Olauka also sees a huge flow of air and smoke that formed after the explosion. She tries to spot the main character and the dragon. In the next moment, the cloud of dust disperses. On the ground lies a dark figure who was unconscious but showed signs of life. At that moment, Oka, Lear, and Karina were closely watching all of this. Ryu looked at the body of the dark dragon and suddenly asked if they had really won. He notices that the dark dragon's head does not move at all, as if there is no life in it. Suddenly it dawns on him. Ryu turns around and sees that Lear, Karina, and Oka are standing nearby. The girls quickly ran up to the young man and joyfully announced that they had won and succeeded. Everyone happily repeated that they had managed to defeat the dark dragon. Then she approached Tiamat directly and loudly said that she would help her now. At this moment you notice something on the body of the dark dragon. He begins to move his lips and shift slightly. The dark dragon said it was a powerful strike and incredible strength. Even Ryu was able to defeat him, the dragon of darkness. He asks you what you want as a reward for your efforts. Then the dragon calls the young man a hero and says that his knowledge of magic will be enough. Ryu wonders if the dragon will truly no longer fight. Ryu tells the dark dragon that he did not fight for a reward. Ryu asks the dragon what he really wants and why he so strongly desires to fight the hero. The dark dragon lay on the ground. He said he just wants to fight a strong opponent. He just wanted to find out how strong he was. For this, he needed a worthy opponent, as different people came here to compete. But no one could hold out for long, and the dark dragon realized that only a true hero could be his equal. But everyone began to fear him, even the heroes, so they decided to imprison him. Ryu, Lear, Oka, and Ryu were very surprised. The dark dragon, with his last strength, explained that he was simply looking for someone who was as strong as he was. He also says that being born with great power is a true curse. The young man is amazed by what he heard from the dark dragon. Ryu remembered how his friends said they had become much stronger, so they set off on a journey. He doesn't know how to fight, so Ryu stays in the village. Wishing him luck, they said goodbye and asked him to take care of the animals in the village. Ryu clenched his fist and wondered how lonely the dark dragon was. The black dragon asked what was going on and demanded that the young man say what he wanted. If the young man cannot think of anything, the dragon asks simply to kill him. Here you interrupt him and say that you have already decided everything. He smiles, addresses the dragon of darkness, points to himself with his finger, and suggests becoming friends. Lear, Oka, and Karen were surprised. But the dark dragon was also surprised. Lear shouted to Ryu and asked what he was talking about. The dark dragon also asked the boy what he meant. Ryu replied that he understood him better than anyone else. Having great power, the dark dragon remained very lonely. Ryu felt a little depressed and placed his hand on his chest. At that moment, Lear and Corinne looked sadly at Ryu. The young man decided to approach the dragon and said that they had defeated him. Ryu reaches out his hand to the dragon lying down and says that they are equals. He offers the dark dragon to become friends. Ryu smiles and asks the dark dragon if he will grant his wish. The dragon is surprised and silent, about to respond. But suddenly Osaka interrupts them. She declares that she is against it. Oscar said that the black dragon killed many people and also wounded her grandmother. She will not be a friend of such a creature. If he is forgiven, the dark dragon may start killing again. She points to the head of the dark dragon lying nearby. Ryu said that, having listened to his story, he understood. The dark dragon no longer intends to kill. Oka was about to say something, but Tiamat interrupted her. The woman looks at herself and says that the dark dragon has been defeated and the magic has disappeared from her body. Odeka rejoices and throws herself into her grandmother's arms. He told Ryu that the monster world is a place where the strongest survive, so the decision depends on Ryu himself. You thought and said that if the dark dragon becomes evil again, they will be able to defeat him. If they managed to do it before, they can do it again. He turns to Uka and says that maybe he is not trusted, but asks Uka if she herself does not believe him. Uka noticeably tenses up. The girl recalls all the moments related to Ryu. Oka looks away and says she will agree only this time. But if anything happens, it will be the boy's responsibility. Ryu thanks the girl. Ryu addresses the black dragon and asks what his answer is. The black dragon begins to laugh and says that it is a strange wish. He agrees and asks the young man to allow him to heal him. Suddenly, a bright glow appears in his hand, and the dragon points at the young man. The dark dragon says that this will be proof of their friendship. After that, a bright light penetrates directly into the boy's body. Ryu was surprised. The dark dragon said that he left a part of his soul in the young man. Then he disappeared and promised that they would meet again soon. The main character was very impressed by how the dragon simply vanished. And then the boy's body buckled, and he fell to the ground. Lear immediately rushed to him. After some time, the boy regains consciousness. He is lying on someone's lap and realizes that he fainted. Ryu wakes up and asks where he is. The girl says that Ryu has finally woken up. Ryu looks at Yor in surprise. The girl smiles sweetly. Ryu says that they haven't seen each other for a long time and asks if she has really woken up. It turned out that the girl was able to regain her strength. Replied that although she has recovered, she can only communicate with him here, in this world. Ryu told the young boy that he was too reckless. Ryu was shocked. Bertessi said that in the battle with the dragon and during training, the boy was constantly on the brink of death. The desire to become stronger is good, but the boy is taking too many risks. You understand what the girl meant by training, and it turns out that it was who gave him strength. The main character replied that he understood and would be more careful in the future. Smiled and said she was glad to hear that. Ryu said that the dark dragon spoke about putting part of his soul into it. Either agrees and says that it is so, and that the egg is exactly in that direction. She points her hand directly at it. Ryu looked at the egg and asked if it was really the egg of a dark dragon, that is, its soul. He said the egg was very beautiful. The man smiled and said that the dragon of darkness was not evil at first. At first, he was a golden dragon who loved to learn something new. But when he mastered forbidden magic, he turned into a dragon of darkness. He was an ordinary dragon, but with a very strong soul. Ryu said that he understood everything. Ur added that Ro is very kind. Then Ur smiled. She says that maybe Ryu spared the dark dragon because Ura is also a dragon. Ryu looks at her carefully and thinks that he does not want to take someone's life just like that. She will reply that this is exactly why he likes this young man. Bear takes an egg and says that they will return to this topic later. She asks you to look more closely. The young man is surprised when he sees a small dragon inside the egg. Bear explains that this dragon inside the egg is regenerating its body. They asked you if he would ever really come to life, or they just agreed and told the boy not to worry because she would take care of this dragon. Then she told Ryu that it was time for them to say goodbye. Ryu hesitated a little and wanted to object. He asked when would be able to leave the body of this young man. Was very surprised. Ryu said that Ura had always been here alone, and he became sad because he realized how lonely she was. But Ura replied that she was not lonely. Ryu feels very cozy and safe inside. She feels good here, so she asks the boy not to worry. And then he asks, if he becomes the Lord of Demons, will the girl be able to escape? Urgates got scared and trembled, or she replies that she will be able to get out. Ryu is happy, but the girl says that this does not need to be done. The Demon Queen is a very powerful monster who controls other demons. She says that Ryu should never become like that, so she suggests ending the conversation. Ryu asks the girl to stop, either smiles sadly and says she will talk to you later. The boy calls the girl, but she does not hear him. After some time, the young man wakes up. Everyone happily stands by Ryu's bed. Lady Tiamat says she is very glad that Ryu is all right. Ryo asks in surprise where they are. Lear replies that after Ro fell, they met grandmother and grandfather, and all together safely returned to the castle. Ryu understands that he was probably unconscious. He thanks everyone for their help. Tiamat said that it seems the boy has not fully recovered yet, so he needs to rest. Lear also told him that if he feels unwell, he should call her immediately. He agreed and advised the girls to rest well too. Ryu was left alone. The young man is glad that Uro is fine. It seems she simply forced him out of that dream, but he does not understand why he cannot become the Lord of Demons. At this moment, Ura thought that everything was happening exactly like this. If Ryu becomes the ruler of the demons, then she will be able to get out of this place. But having such power, the boy will be completely alone. He will have to sacrifice all his friends. She thinks about Ryu and asks if the main character will be able to handle it. After some time, a celebration was held in the city. All the people joyfully had fun, eating, drinking, dancing, and singing. They rejoiced that the dark dragon was defeated. They drank to the last drop and praised the Emperor of Dragons and Lord Ryu. Lear approached Ryu, smiled, and said that it seemed the boy was now very popular. Ryu agreed and added that now people in the city no longer gave him any favors. After some time, Ryu, Karen, and Lear arrive at the Emperor's palace. The Emperor thanks them once again and asks for permission to express his gratitude. Aishin. He says that without them, it would not have been possible to defeat the evil dragon. Then the Emperor asked what reward she wanted. Ryu was frightened and said that it was not worth doing. The Emperor smiles and tells the young man not to be shy. After all, he cannot let them go without a reward, so they can ask for anything they want. But Ryu believes that even if the Emperor says so, he himself does not understand what to ask for and has no ideas at all. Ryu asks what exactly he can request. The Emperor replies that the young man can ask for anything his heart desires, such as treasures, artifacts, or the right to live in the palace. Ryu thinks. Then Miss Tiamat smiles, apologizes for the interruption, but says she has an idea about the reward. She thinks and asks the boy why he wouldn't choose her as a reward. The girl smiles. Ryu, Ogaka, Lear, and Karen are very surprised and ask what she means. Lear asks if Mrs. Tiamat really wants to become his wife. Karen asks if Tiamat plans to marry Dad. Oka is curious about what exactly grandmother is talking about. You nervously laugh and say that the Emperor definitely would not agree to such a thing. Suddenly, the Emperor and his wife calmly respond that it does not bother them at all. The Emperor asks Ryu what he would say to that, as it would be nice to have a dragon wife. Ryu was confused, and his comrades stood around him. The young man looks at Mrs. Tiamat fearfully and asks why she is doing that. Tiamat covers her mouth with her hand and wonders what she said. Suddenly, the Emperor asks the young man if he really did not like this offer. Then the Emperor asks if Ryu will agree to Lady Tiamat's terms. Ryu asks the Emperor in surprise what he means by claws. The Emperor agrees and explains that strong weapons and simple armor are made from the claws and scales of dragons. This helps improve their equipment. Or the young man has other intentions. He replies to the emperor that everything is fine and turns to Lady Tiamat. The girl laughed nervously. The emperor said that then the young man would receive a reward, the dragon's brand. He will prepare everything, and in the meantime, they can rest. At that moment, Orica sighed with relief. After some time, Ryu was training together with Lear and Karin, practicing sword techniques. Lear asks if everything is okay. The young man wipes sweat from his forehead. Lear adds that the boy has not yet recovered and may need some rest, but you say he is fine, so he should better train. Ryu noticed that the dark dragon still had not recovered. It's good that Yura takes care of him. He needs to become much stronger to keep up with the heroes. At that moment, Orica approached Ryu and handed him a bottle with a towel. She told Joyous to take them. Then the girl asked if the boy really trains that much. Unfortunately, that is all she can do to help him. The boy thanks the girl. Then she carefully watches as Ryu wipes the sweat. Ryu asks the girl what happened. The girl replies that everything is fine, and then asks what the boy will do when he receives the reward. Ryu says that he thinks he will look for his friends later. He asks Olaka what she would like to do. Suddenly, Oka gets worried and asks the boy if she can go with him and his friends. Ryu asks what the emperor will say. Oka replies not to worry because her father said she can tell the world about it. If they appeal together, he will definitely allow it. Oka also says that if she could, she would go with them. Ryu was surprised, and then remembered how the girl said she really wanted to travel. Oka considered herself a princess, and thought she could not just leave the country, although she really wanted to. Suddenly, Karen broke the silence. Karin is happy and says that she completely agrees and it is not difficult for her at all to travel together with her. Leah replied that they absolutely cannot do that. Everyone fell silent. Ryo said that everything was correct, and such important decisions cannot be made alone. Oshika remained silent. Ryo patted the girl on the head and said not to worry, because they would go with her. Ryu smiles again and assures that he will definitely get permission from the emperor. He asks the girl to believe in him. The eye rejoiced, clenched its fist tightly and smiled as it asked again if it was really so. They were already about to go to the emperor when suddenly a man stopped them and informed them that the emperor was summoning them. He will lead them to the throne room. After some time, the company enters the throne room. There stands a huge table. The emperor pulls a white tablecloth off the table and says that this is the boy's reward. There were 5 claws on the table. Ru was surprised that there were so many. The emperor explained that Tiamat said each claw has its own effect, so they prepared several options. The ground dragon's claws are very strong. The water dragons are flexible and beautiful, and the air dragons are light and sharp. The emperor said that there are also special conditions. He offered the young man to choose the one he likes. Ryu begins to examine the contract clause and realizes that there are many different types, and he has no idea which one to choose. Suddenly, he notices the claw and says that he likes it. It is immediately clear that this thing is special and very comfortable in the hand. The emperor smiles and says that he has an eye like a diamond. He says that this claw belongs to Tiamat. Ryu is very surprised and asks if he really has a connection to Tiamat. The emperor replies that they are incredibly lucky because the apprentice chose the teacher's claw. Tiamat blushes and asks the emperor to stop. Suddenly, the emperor snaps his fingers and says he has a better idea. He asks Ryu why he doesn't take Tiamat with him. Ryu and Tiamat are stunned by these words. Osaka, Karin, and Lear are also surprised. The emperor asked Tiamat if she enjoyed training with Ryu. Tiamat replied that she needed to take care of Lady Oak, so she had to decline. At that moment, Ryu notices Utsuku, who is very anxious and tightly clutches the edge of her dress with her hands. Ryu smiled and nodded at the girl. She clenched her hand into a fist. Suddenly, Osaka stomped her heel and turned to her grandmother and father. She said that if her grandmother did not want to, she wanted to go on a trip with Ryu. She says that she has been thinking about it for a long time. She wants to see all the wonders of the world with her own eyes, and even if someone is against it, she does not intend to give up. Boka bows and asks grandmother and father for permission to go on a trip. But suddenly everyone began whispering that Mrs. Aveka is still very young, and it is too dangerous. The emperor says he understands how the girl feels, but she is still too young, so she needs to wait a few more years. Suddenly, Tiamat objects, saying she disagrees with this. Oka bravely fought the Dragon of Darkness and did wonderfully. Tiamat believes that Oka has already grown up enough. Moreover, she will be beside you. He is strong enough, so there will be no problems. She believes that Uku needs to be released. The girl was surprised by her grandmother's words. Tiamat addresses the boy and says that she has one condition. She says that Ryu must definitely protect Oku during the journey. If anything happens to her, the boy will certainly not avoid punishment from the scientists. This could even cause an international scandal. She asks the boy if he's ready to take responsibility for Oka. At this moment, grandmother is very serious. Oka says that Ryu does not necessarily have to agree because she can protect herself. But Tiamat recalls that in a previous interview, Oka said something completely different. She comes back to check and says, if a guy cannot protect a girl, then he cannot give consent. Then he asks her to answer the question. Ryu falls silent, then says he will speak honestly. He cannot promise that. He does not know what might happen on the road, so he cannot promise that Okinawa will not be harmed. The girl is scared. Ryu promised that if anything happened, he would definitely help her. Not because she is a princess, but because they are friends. Therefore, they ask Miss Tiamat to allow Okai to travel together with friends. Then Ryu bows. Ms. Tiamat first frowned, then smiled. She asked if Ro was really the princess's friend. Ro was confused and quickly confirmed that it was exactly so. Lady Tiamat addresses the emperor and asks what he will say. She asks if the emperor will allow Orica to leave. The emperor smiled and said that he could not refuse his benefactors. He agreed and allowed Ogancia to go on a journey. Oki's fist begins to tremble, and the girl rejoices and says that now she will be able to tell the whole world about it. Ryu addresses Oha and says that he is very happy. Oha thanks Ryu. Lady Tiamat interrupts them and says that she has one condition. This means that she is going together with them. Ryu looks at Mrs. Tiamat in surprise. Oki is also surprised and turns to his grandmother. Tiamat replies that she never said she would not allow them to go on their own. Tamed noted that if they cause problems in another country, it could lead to an international conflict. Additionally, it could also cause difficulties for Mr. Ryu. Tiamat asked the boy to be understanding about this. Lear said that it does not bother her, and Karina added that it is even more interesting that way. Suddenly, everyone asks Opaka what happened. The girl replies that she is simply happy because she has finally become free. The emperor laughed and told her not to say that. The man says that before they leave, he would like to talk. The emperor says he has a request for the young man. Ryu is surprised and asks what the request is about. The emperor asks if they can visit the Elven village. Many spirits live in El Forest, and recently he received a message from the King of Spirits. He turns to Ryu asking for help with an important matter. Ryu is surprised and asks if he really needs her help. The emperor agrees and says that the news of the Dark Dragon's death is spreading very quickly, so he asks to be given his powers. People started kidnapping elves, and he asks to catch all the poachers. They catch spirits, and the captured elves are sold as servants. He finds it difficult to appear among people, so he asks the young man for help. Ryu responds that he understands everything, as he himself is a human. Ryu thought that he had turned to a man he cannot stand for help. He does not mind helping, but he is not sure how others will react to it. Suddenly, he heard the girls asking Ryu to show his signature move. Leah says she is sure everyone thinks the same. Oki asks if this is not the best part of traveling, when a young guy can do whatever he wants. Ryo agreed, and said that he would go to the village of elves. The emperor replied that he was very pleased that Ro had turned to him for help. It made him truly happy. Ryu understands that he must speak with the King of Spirits himself. The emperor said that the village elder would speak on his behalf. The elf village is located in the south of the Great Forest. Ro confirmed that he understood everything, and they set off on the road. Emperor Yuk wants her to have a good time on the trip. Mom wished the girl good luck. Oka smiled, said goodbye to her parents, and said that they had already left. Everyone was very happy. After some time, in the south of the Great Forest, Ryuzu's group was making their way through dense thickets. Ryuzu noticed that it was difficult to walk here because of the roots. Tiamat replied that there were many large trees in this part. They are already approaching the Elven village, and it will be easier from here. Ryu said he understood everything. Ryu turns to the boys and says there is very little left. He looks at Ogunku, who is gasping for breath and very upset. The girl says she is fine and tries to catch her breath. Tiamat told the girl to hurry up. If they walked so slowly, they would never get there. She suggested the princess treat it as training and asked her to give her all. Tiamat urged the girls on. Oyuka was irritated, and Ryu said it was very difficult. Ryu said that he was in this part of the forest for the first time. Miss Tiamat said that everything was fine. His spirits created a barrier around the village, so it is impossible to find it. Lear added that they would not be able to get into the village. Guard spirits stand by the barrier. If they identify themselves, the spirits will let them inside. Ryuzor smiled and noted that they had already grown quite close. Suddenly, the boy was surprised and glanced to the side. They saw a small spirit of a young man. Ryu was very happy, and Korin said that it was the first time they had seen them. Ryu asked the spirit if he had really come to meet them. Suddenly, the spirit showed where to go and flew in that direction. Ray did not know whether he should follow him or what had happened at all. They did not understand where the spirit had flown so quickly. Tiamat said she did not understand anything, but they still began to move away from the village. Suddenly, the young man heard someone's voice. In the next moment, someone attacked them. Lear and Ryu were even a little scared. Then they saw a huge number of spiders. Tiamat explained that these creatures are called forest spiders. You didn't even realize where so many of them came from. And Corinne turned to the young man and asked him to look away. Huge spiders attacked the people. Ro said that he must help them. They quickly dealt with the pile of spiders. One of the spiders attacked the boy, and he was very scared. Ryu asked if he was okay. Lear agreed and said that the boy had just fainted. Tiamat added that he had no serious injuries. Suddenly, the spirit flew up to the young man. Ryu explained that this was exactly why he brought them here. At that moment, a noise came from the cart. Someone was calling the man and asking if he could help them. There were elves in the cage, and they asked the young man to release them. Lyre and Ryu were very surprised when they saw the elves in the wagon. After some time, they were released. The elves thanked the boy and said they could not reward him yet. Ryu replied that he needed nothing. He introduced himself. His name is Ryu, and he came at the request of the King of Spirits. Ogaka said that everything was fine. Ryu said that it was this spirit that brought them here. Elphika was surprised, then saw the spirit who gestured for her to be silent and smiled. After some time, people wake up and cannot understand what happened, but they have already been attacked by forest spiders. They rushed to run away and shouted that they didn't care about the elves. The main thing was to save themselves. Their own lives were the most important to them. Did you realize that they ran away without even thinking? Suddenly you notice something on the ground. He sees a sword with an interesting coat of arms, which is depicted on all the other items as well. Tamed said that she had never seen anything like this before. It seems they are all from the same group, and this group is clearly large. Perhaps even aristocrats belong to this organization. Ryu says there is nothing more to know. They need to head to the village. For this, they need to talk to the Spirit King. Also, they have to escort the elves home. After some time, they walk through the dense forest. Ryu recalls that among the kidnapped elves are 4 women and 2 children. He realizes that they did not even spare the children. He does not even want to imagine what these people intended to do with them. We need to quickly deal with these poachers and protect the elves and spirits. The elf says they are almost there. They only need to go through the bushes, and they are already home. Ryu says in surprise that this is an elven village. A small spirit flies away, and Ro says goodbye to it. An elf runs up to them and calls the elf Helen. He picks her up. He says he is glad that she is okay. The girl complains that she is in pain, and the elf replies that he was very worried when she was kidnapped. Now, do you understand that they are one family? Helen points to the young man and says that he is the one who saved them. The man bows and thanks you for saving Helen. Ryu replies that there is no need to thank him, he just helped in a difficult moment. Helen calls her grandfather and says that they came to him at the request of the King of Spirits. The man asks if it is true, then adds that the young man is probably Mr. Ryu. The man clears his throat and asks for permission to introduce himself. He says he is the village elder. His name is Alray Solon, and next to him is his granddaughter Helen. Ryu is surprised that this man is an elder, as he looks no older than 20 years. He wonders if elves age at all. After that, I lead them to the King of Spirits and ask the guys to follow me. Later they approach the house with the round table. There are already several people sitting there, and only one chair remains free. The elder addresses the Lord and reports that Mr. Ryu has arrived at his request. He believes that now they can start saving their own. Ryu asks if they will discuss the plan of action. The elder responds affirmatively. Many of their relatives were kidnapped by traitors and will soon be sold to the ministry. He has already come up with a way to fight this, and Ryu asked what exactly he had planned. The elder of the elves said that they will break into the houses of the rich who bought their brothers and save all the elves and spirits, as well as punish all the wicked people. That's all. Ryu was very surprised and asked what all this meant. Then he realized that this plan was too simple. Lear and Tiamat were also impressed and surprised. Lear quietly whispered to Ryu, "What if the old man is joking?" Ryu replied that he did not think so. At that moment, Korin told the old man that it was a great idea. Volka supported the girl and added that they could set off and defeat everyone. They had already rushed into battle, but suddenly Ryu stopped them, grabbing both by the shoulders. He ordered the girls to stop, and then he added that it was too risky. First, how would they even find out which houses the elves would be in? And why not immediately search the places where illegal goods are traded? The elf said that the scouts they sent to the kingdom have not returned yet. Ryu added, if they attack the nobles, they will definitely want to take revenge and attack the village. They need to think everything over once more. Suddenly the elf loudly slammed his fist on the table and said that they do not have that much time. Even now their relatives suffer from these cruel people. They endure all these torments with hope that they will be saved, and therefore cannot wait long. The elves began to support the one who had just spoken. Did you realize that it was also very difficult for them, and that is why they were in such a hurry? They want to save the elves and spirits as quickly as possible. Ryu presses her lips and says that she needs to think everything over first. If they attack indiscriminately, it could lead to the death of the elves and waste a lot of time. This will cause more harm than good. The elder asked what should be done then. Ryu placed his hand on his heart and told the elves that he would take responsibility for everything. He will go to the dealers of forbidden goods disguised as a buyer. All the elves are very surprised. Ryu says that when he starts selling, he will be able to find out the necessary information. Maybe he will even immediately buy something from it. The elder asked if it was not too risky. Oka said that is all. Moreover, he has no idea how much money the young man will need for this. Ryu says that this money just needs to be earned. He plans to get money from selling materials he obtains while hunting in the Great Forest. He also has small reserves of funds left after selling in the Kingdom of Dwarves. Ryu believes that he still has about 60 gold coins somewhere. He turns to the elder and asks if there are dangerous monsters here. He wants to make money from them. The elder replies that, of course, there are many spiders in these forests. They recently appeared in the forest and have already begun to multiply rapidly. People have already suffered a lot from them. Tiamat reminded the boy not to forget about the monsters they had already defeated. Ryu agreed and assured that everything would be fine. He raises his hand and announces that they are starting a mission to save the elves and will do everything possible. At that time, in the deep forest, one spirit flew up to another. Seeing him, he exclaimed in surprise. The spirit turned to the young man and asked where he had been all this time, because he had been looking for him for a very long time. The spirit apologized and explained that he wanted to learn a little more about him. He warned that if the young man ran away like that again, he could get into trouble. Then he asked the spirit, "How do you feel?" The spirit puts on a cloak and says that as the king of spirits, he immediately noticed what an interesting guy is in front of him. He is confident that Ryu will be able to help their village. He also adds that Ryu, although a mentor, is very brave and has a good heart. Once long ago, the spiritual king met with a man. They wanted to create a world where humans and spirits would live together. The man agreed and suggested making a contract to use the power of the spirits, as this power can greatly help people in many matters. The spirit asks what benefit they have. The man says he will explain everything now. He says that now people have completely forgotten about the good gifts of the spirits and perceive them only as ordinary workers, but they can change everything. The king of spirits, reading the letter, pondered and realized that, it seems, he was the only one left who still believed in it. After some time, Ryu killed several spiders and said that this was probably enough. The elf asked if anyone would buy them at all. Ryu replied that these things can be used in any way. For example, the threads are suitable for clothing. Then he says that now they can go to the principality. But suddenly an elder approaches Ryu and calls him. The elder asked the boy to help their brothers, because among the kidnapped people is also his daughter. Ryu was surprised and asked again if the elder's daughter was really among the kidnapped. The elder replied that many were kidnapped, children, adults, and even orphans. But each of them is very valuable to him. All the elves bow and ask you and your team to help return home. The main character agrees. The older man rummages through his pocket and asks the boy to take something. He hands him the package. Ryu asks what kind of letter it is. The elder says that this letter is from the king of spirits, and the young man can deliver it to the ruler of the principality. He asks which ruler of the principality the young man means. Ryu asks what is in this letter. The elder replies that Ryu just has to deliver it. Ryu agrees and says he is not sure if he can meet the necessary person, but he will try. The elder thanks Ryu's group. Ryu and his team turn around and leave. The elves wish them the blessing of the Spirit King. Later, the girls asked Ryu what the Principality of Eruk is like. Ryu replied to Karin that he does not know the details, but it is not as strict there as in other countries. They don't even require a card at the entrance. Miss Tiamat replied that this principality also received the blessing of the spirits. Oka was surprised and asked if they really kidnap elves and spirits to sell them. Tiamat said that this is most likely someone's scheme. First, it is necessary to find out all the information. When they sell the guild spiders, let them talk to the people. They arrive in the city, and Ryu asks if this is really the Principality of Ifru. He also says he doesn't see anything special here. They enter the guild and notice that it is unusually quiet and lifeless here. A young man takes out spiders and says he wants to sell them. He is given money and asked to count it. Ryo thanked him but felt that he had experienced something similar before. Then Reo said that the money had already arrived. Suddenly, someone calls Reo. It was Mac. The young man said they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Mac said he had heard about the sale of rare materials, so he came to take a look. He thought the seller was the same young man. Ryu was surprised. Uerka asked Ryu if he really knew about mechanics. Ryu confirmed and said that they had met in the land of the dwarves. Mac said he couldn't even believe he met Ryu here. He did not expect him to come during such a tense period. Ryu was surprised and asked him what exactly difficult period Max meant. Max said that maybe the young man does not know yet, but the ruler recently fell ill. Ryu was very surprised. Matt continued and said that in this country, the one who can make a contract with the King of Spirits rules. But right now, no one has been able to sign the contract yet. Because of this, everyone is very worried. Ryu replied that he understood everything. He pondered what the acquaintance between the Spirit King and the current ruler meant. Perhaps the letter refers to a future heir. Mac asked you why he was here at all. The young man was surprised but thought he could not tell him that he came to save the elves. Ryu replied that he helped search for missing people at the request of a village. Mac was surprised and said that Ryu is very kind. But Ryu asks the boy if he knows anything. He is interested in whether he has heard anything about the servants in this country. Mac says that it is not that much. He heard that there is a dark guild in this country that deals with illegal goods. They are also called the Black Wolves. The boy remembered that he knew one person who was connected to this guild. Ryu was surprised and asked if that was really true. Max said that due to the appearance of the Ryu group, it would be difficult to contact him. Ryu was surprised and asked what that meant. Max said that traders in prohibited goods are often noticed precisely by their appearance. They are easily mistaken for poor people because of how they look. Ruiz replied that he understood this. But Enak replied that as soon as they get expensive clothes, they will be able to bring them to him immediately. They cannot help with anything else. You thank them once again. After some time, the boy waved to them and said goodbye. The girls began to worry and asked if everything would be all right. Karin said that it was uncomfortable. Oreka assured the girl that it suited her very well. Tiamat reminded everyone that they must behave like aristocrats, so they should watch their behavior and words. The heroes were dressed in very beautiful and expensive clothes. Reu told the girls that everything was fine and suggested repeating everything once more. In this family, Ru is the dad, and Timot is his wife. Karen and Olteka are their daughters. He wants to say who Lear will be. But the girl screamed very loudly and asked why she should be an animal. Reu explained that the girl finds it hard to hide her tail and ears, so it is very difficult for her to pretend to be human. She got upset, and they decided to go to the traders of forbidden items. Everyone supported this idea. After some time, a butler approached the whole group and asked if they were here for the first time. Ryu confirmed this and added that he learned about this place from his friend Maka, who advised them to turn to this man. The butler said he understood everything. The man then asked Ryu which servant he was interested in. Ryu was surprised, as he had not even considered making any purchase plan. Suddenly, Mrs. Tiamat interrupted them and said that he should do his household duties well and look attractive. She inquired about what servants they have. The man said that then they should be allowed to show all the goods they have and invited them to follow him. Ryu turns to Tiamat, and she nods affirmatively. They descended the long stairs. Ro asked the man what kind of servants they kept. The man replied that they had many servants. There is a man who could not pay off his debts. There is also a former adventurer. But overall, this man is confident that everything will be resolved. The wolf whispered that it is disgusting. Ryu asked her to be quiet. The band also said that they still have half-humans left. Ryu asked if they are even available. The man agreed and said that everything is exactly like that, asking you if you are really interested. He added that he can show everything if they want. The man asked Ryu which breed he was interested in, perhaps dogs or cats. But suddenly Ryu inquired if they had elves. The man was very surprised. He stopped and quietly asked Tiamat if he had really said something wrong. Tiamat replied that maybe he was starting to guess. The man said he was very sorry. He added that unfortunately, they do not have elves. Ru was surprised by this. After some time, they come to the room. The man says that elves are valuable goods and are sold only at auction. Ryu said that he understood everything, meaning you won't find them with other traders either. The man agreed and added that selling these items at auctions is much more profitable. The main character thought that this was very bad, because usually all problems can be solved with money or through merchants. But at the auction, everything is different. The winner is the one who has more money, and the elves will cost crazy amounts. He understands that it is necessary to find out as soon as possible where they are being held. Ryu asks the man where the auction will take place. The man apologizes and says he cannot disclose such information. Ryu lays out a pouch of gold coins and asks the man if he can tell a little about the elves for a small reward. The man was very surprised. The man hands over a list of people who were put up for auction and asks not to tell anyone about it. Among them, there are especially many women and children. Recently, the Dark Guild has been trying very hard. Ryu heard that they recently captured an entire group of elves. Now Ryu understands that there are really many of them here. If they want to free everyone, they will have to act very carefully. Suddenly, Ryu notices Vera Ray Salon. He points at her, and the man says that the esteemed client has excellent taste. You understand that in 3 days she will be sold at auction, and the elder asks to save his daughter. He looks at the girl and notices that they have the same last name, so it seems she is the elder's daughter. TM leans toward the boy and quietly says that there is little time left before the auction, and they need to hurry. Ryu agrees. Ryu says that this means a chance to find a real treasure will soon appear, then asks why elves are so valuable. The man replies that he does not know himself. Suddenly, Ryu gives him another pouch of coins, and after that, the man agrees to tell everything he knows. In the Dark Guild, they said that behind every elf follows a spirit, and the elf itself is just a pleasant bonus. Ryu is curious about what kind of bonus this is and what it even means. The man is asking about you because he knows the ruler is currently ill. That is why everyone is trying to make a deal with the spirit, and for that, elves are needed. Usually, the spirits are always near the elves. The main character heard this and said that he understood everything. Ryu recalls the words of the elf, who said that their brothers and sisters are still suffering greatly. They asked the young man for help. He looks at the man and thinks that now the elves are overwhelmed with grief, and people have started hunting souls, treating elves like objects. Ryu was very angry. Even Korin saw it and said that Dad was very upset, and Orica added that she felt true rage. The man asked Ryu if he needed any more help. Ryu replied that this was enough, nothing else was needed. He also asked if it was possible to find out who did it. The man apologized and said he did not have that information. But Ryu thanked the man for the information. He said it was already time for them to go. Next time they would definitely buy something from him. The man also thanked them and said he would wait for them again. After some time, Lear said she couldn't believe that elves were kidnapped just for money. Korin also added that such a life is terrible. Lear turned to Ryu and asked if he was okay. He replied that everything was fine. He said that they would definitely save all the elves. He does not understand how it is possible to treat other peoples as things. Lear and Karin agreed with the young man. Ryu says that more information is needed. It is necessary to find out where the prisoners are held and who is behind it. Miss Tiamat suggested the children change clothes because they are too noticeable in their current outfits. Ryu agreed with her. Then they decided to hide the things here. The main character says that after this, a few more questions need to be asked. At the same moment, he opens the pot standing on the ground and is very surprised by what he sees inside. Inside sat a child who nervously laughed and greeted Ryu. Everyone was very surprised. The child greeted Ryu. He calmly took and closed the pot lid. The child screamed and asked the boy what he was doing here. He apologized and said he did not want to disturb the peace in the child's home. The girl said that this is not her house and she is not a child. Her name is Alice. She will turn 19 this year, and she is an informant from Earth. Alice also told the boy not to underestimate her. Ryu jokingly remarked that she looks like a child. Ryu then told about the country of light and said that it was his home. Alice was surprised and asked if he was really from there. Miss Tiamat inquired about the country of light and asked if the church really rules everything here. Oka asked about the church. Ryu replied that it is here that people receive their profession, as it is a large organization of priests. Alice said that everything was fine, and that is why she came here to help their hero. Ryu was surprised and asked if they really knew Chikaya. Alice confirmed and said that Chikaya is part of the hero team and is engaged in gathering intelligence and information, although their squad is somewhat different from the hero group itself. Since they are from the same city, she asks the boy to help her with a matter. Ryu asks what exactly she means. The girl says that trading in prohibited goods in this country is thriving, and it needs to be stopped. Ryu understands that Alice has the same goal as they do. Alice said that she already knows everything about how they came to the city to save the servants. They disguised themselves as wealthy people and sneaked into the trader of forbidden goods. She can give them a lot of useful information. She asks what they think and if they will help free the servants, and wants to hear their answer. Ryu thought for a moment, then asked the girl to allow him to find out why everything happened that way. If Alice works in intelligence, then why don't they free the servants themselves? Alice said she can easily gather information but doesn't know how to fight. She had already tried to get into the auction once, but they simply showed her the door. Ryu asked, so she decided to seek help from Pov. Alice agreed, and added that excessive hunting of spirits is a real problem. People use elemental magic thanks to the spirits, because long ago they made a pact with the King of Spirits, and it was he who gave them this magic. But after such an emotional outburst, he may stop the conflict. After that, they may lose their magical powers, and then they will have to fight the monsters themselves. Ryu believes that the hero can also lose his abilities. Alice runs up to Ro, asks him for help, and promises that she will definitely repay him. She must complete this task. If she fails the mission, how will she then be able to look the hero in the eye? Ro agrees and says he will help her. Lear added that the main character does not like monsters, and it is not a problem if they help. Ryu understands that for now it is better not to approach the hero, but finding out more information will not hurt either. He invites Lear to talk. It seems that Alice is from another group, not the one where the hero is. Her data might come in handy for them. Maybe that way they will manage not to attract the hero's attention. Tiamat said it would be better that way. According to him, then everything will be resolved. Ryu says he is ready to help, but in exchange, the girl must share the information that interests him. Alice asked if that was really the case. She thanked the boy. Alice said she would contact the team. The girl fell silent. Karen asked what she was doing. Ryu replied that it was a magical artifact. It works almost the same as their connection. Alice says that she has already received permission. She invites to talk in the room. The girl calls everyone to follow her. She stumbles and falls. Ryu begins to doubt whether she is really from the reconnaissance squad. But after some time they returned, and Elisa informed the captain that they were already here. To this, the man replied that they had been waiting for them. Another group approached the Ryu's group. The man thanked the guys for helping Elisa.